God, it smells like shit in here.
Welcome to All the Scottish and Wolf Queensland.
Sometimes, man.
Welcome back, people in podcast land. If you're joining us again,
Doubtful.
or if you're joining us for the first time, hello.
Hello. Again. No one. What are we doing this week?
We are doing the Isle of Man TT this week.
Oh, fuck yeah. The Isle of Man TT.
Isle of Man TT. Did you listen to it this week?
I did. On the
TT
radio.
2023.
Oh, it's filthy.
What a week. Sitting there editing. Where was you at?
It's in Lake District editing the Tsunami podcast in my van, listening to the TT on the radio. Good shit.
Sounds like living the life.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, the TT is a bit of a close subject for us, isn't it?
We do enjoy it quite a lot. Been there a few times.
How many times have you been?
Well, Dad took us when we were kids.
I don't count that.
I don't really count that because I can't really remember it.
I think
too
I was
much.
like 2, so I don't think that
Yeah.
counts.
But I went back for the first time on my bike in 2014.
Yes.
Well, we were supposed to be going back on the bike, and about 6 weeks beforehand, I broke my ankle playing football.
Oh yeah.
So I sort of thought that was over and done with. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go up in the car now. This is
Right.
dead. And got my cast off about 2 days before we were supposed to leave. I thought to myself, let's give it a go. Let's see if I can stand on this just long enough to flip the stand up, and I'm away.
Was it your right foot?
It was my right foot. So
Back
on a
brake.
motorbike, if you don't ride bikes, your back brake is on your right foot. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, if the weather's nice, I only need a front brake. I don't need to use a back brake.
Who needs a back brake?
No one needs back brake.
No one needs
But
back brake.
when it's raining, when it's wet, you tend to switch over a bit more. You tend to lead with your rear brake more.
I always got told this, yeah. And
Yeah.
then when I did my last bike test, the
Yeah.
guy was like, "Oh no!" Like I said a joke about like, well, use my back brake.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh no, you don't want to do that in the wet." And I was like, "Oh, I thought that was the thing."
thing.
And then like there was like some ex-racer guy who was doing his like test at the same time.
Yeah.
And like they were both just like sat there. I'm going to use a really weird word here, but scoffing at me for
Because you
saying
use
your
your rear
back brake. I was like, "What the fuck?" They were fucking. They was like, "Oh, imagine it being wet and you touch your back brake going into Druids." I was like, "Okay, well maybe it's different on a racetrack. I don't fucking know." But and now I've been confused about that since.
Well, it makes sense.
So
If you
I just
if
grab
you
everything and hope that I don't fall off.
To be fair, if you you don't want to be grabbing a handful of front brake in the wet.
See, that makes
Too
sense. But
much.
then they were saying that if it's wet and you pull the front brake, obviously all of the weight transfers to the front wheel,
Yeah.
so you get like a better like
Stop.
you're on the ground, you're going into the ground rather than like dragging with a back brake. I was like, well, it kind of makes sense, but now I don't know what's happening.
Well, when I was doing my bike tests, they were saying, oh yeah, you switch it over a bit. You'd lead with your rear
these
brake
motherfuckers
first.
don't even know what
just
they're
to-
talking
no,
about.
I don't know anymore. But anyway,
Yeah, carry on.
at the time, that was all I was thinking. Nice weather, use the front brake, don't need a back brake. So we loaded up the bikes, ready for our big trip. So to get to the Isle of Man, we get the ferry from Liverpool. Now we live in Kent, so we're a good couple of 100 miles down the road,
Was it like 260 miles?
something
isn't it?
like that. So
And for anyone that cares, that fucking sucks, that ride.
yeah, it's not comfortable after that many miles. So we get, I don't know, 10 miles up the road, hit a load of traffic at Dartford. If anyone in Kent knows Dartford, yeah,
Shit.
it's not good. And then the heavens opened and it rained constantly the whole way to Liverpool. And I'm sitting there like trying to touch this back brake. I can't feel what I'm doing. No feeling in my foot whatsoever.
Did it hurt still, or was it just like
Yeah,
numb?
it was painful still.
Nice.
But yeah, we get all the way up there. I mean, trying to get onto the ferry as well. I mean, you know what it's like. You sit around waiting for ages, trying to get loaded on the ferry. It's still just battering it down with rain. We're talking, this is like 11 o'clock at night by this point, waiting to get the late ferry. And then you ride up the slippery slope and you park up, and then I hobble away from the bike, find ourselves a nice little spot on the ferry, and had a nice little journey over on the ferry.
Was it like 4 hours?
Something like that. And we pulled up in Douglas, Probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. We ride off the ferry, still battering it down. We were staying at a place called Kurt Michael, which is actually on the circuit. And we're sitting there trying to set up tents in the pissing rain at like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what the fuck is this? I was shouting at Dad, what have you fucking dragged me up here for? Then we sort of woke up that next day. And we said, right, we'll go up the pub, get ready for some practice. Bearing in mind, I've not seen the bikes going past before. We've watched it for years and years and years on the telly, and heard all the stories, watched all the documentaries. I'm sitting there, I go out to the pub, get a couple of beers, walk back towards the... practice has just started, so I start walking back towards the track. And the first person past me was Guy Martin.
Yes.
And he went, and honestly took my breath away. I was just like, oh my God. This is crazy. It's just something that you can't even explain to people who have never been there and seen that bike go past you. The first bike, to have that first reaction again after the first bike going past, wow, crazy. So that was 2014. I went back. Then we done 2016, the Manx GP.
Hold fire for 2 seconds. I'm just going to turn this off because I'm conscious that it's just going to be like in the background. Continue. 2016.
2016, we went to the Manx GP. His dad got married out there, so much he loves it. Then we went back for TT 2017, and then TT 2019, I believe. Yes, it was. And, because my boy was just 2 months old, and everyone told me that I wouldn't be able to leave him.
Yeah, I had a bet on with someone who should not be named, but I had a bet on with someone, and they were like, Ross won't go. His son, his firstborn child, is just going to be born like a month before. And I was like, oh, you don't know Ross. He's going. And I'm still owed 20 quid, by the way. So if you're listening and you know who you are, that's 20 quid.
Yeah. So my excuse is, but TT.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can have a kid any time of the year.
Exactly.
TT comes around.
Once a year, TT comes around.
Then 2 weeks roll around once a year. Anyway, I feel like we've probably lost a lot of people who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah,
already.
so we could get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, let's.
Do you want to start with it? Do you want to start with the history of the actual island itself?
Yeah, I thought I'd do a little background run on the Isle of Man. So, the Isle of Man is a self-governing British Crown dependency in the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Ireland.
So, what does a Crown dependency mean?
I think that means that it's its own government.
Yeah.
But it still falls under basically like UK territory, if you like.
I read that it still falls under the possession of the monarchy.
Yeah, so King Charles still like owns it, but it's its own place.
We spoke about that guy before.
Yeah, fuck that guy. The fucking nonce improviser. Anyway, there we go. As head of state, Charles III holds the title Lord of Man, and he'd probably prefer Lord of Boys. Lord of Man, and is represented by a Lieutenant Governor. Ooh. The government of the United Kingdom is responsible for the Isle's military defence and represents it abroad. Good times. So, it's a tiny little rock in the middle of the Irish Sea. Pretty fucking sick. So there's humans who have lived on the islands since before 6,500 BC.
Ooh, Hancock territory.
Hancock's...
Before that, another 6,000 years.
Yeah, another 6,000 years before that, before the Younger Dryas impact, and it wiped us all out. We'll do another episode on that. That's
yeah,
gonna blow your fucking mind.
Sick.
Gaelic culture influences began in the 5th century AD. I don't know what they were doing for the 7,000 years between that, but just fucking
just
chilling.
raping and pillaging.
I don't even think they did that. They were just fucking throwing sticks at each other.
Like
grunting.
just chill.
They didn't even have English. They were just grunting. Culture influences from the Gaelic backgrounds in the 5th century AD, when Irish missionaries following the teachings of St Patrick began settling the island, and the Manx language, a branch of Gaelic, emerged. In 627, King Edwin of Northumbria conquered the Isle of Man along with most of Mercia. So that was all of the old kingdoms when it was like Saxon times. They had I think it was Kent, Wessex, Northumbria, Mercia. They were all like their own countries. So it's before England was a thing. So King Edwin of Northumbria conquered the Isle of Man. In the 9th century, Norsemen established I'm going to try and say this fucking word. Thalassocratic Kingdom of the Isles. I have no idea what Thalassocratic means, but I'm just finding out right now.
And what's the Norse?
Norsemen, so that would be like Vikings.
Vikings and stuff,
Norse
yeah.
stuff. A thalassocracy. Fuck me, you try and say that word. What is that? I know we're two idiots, but...
Thaladocracy.
Something like that. Yeah, that one. Sometimes also called a maritime empire. That would have been way easier. Why don't I just say that? It's a state with primarily maritime realms.
We can edit that bit out if you want.
Yeah. Let's do that. Anyway, it's a marine empire. Fucking where am I at now? There we go. Right, so the Norsemen established this maritime empire, Kingdom of the Isles, which included the Isle of Man. Magnus III, King of Norway from 1093 to 1103, reigned as King of Man and the Isles between 1099 and 1103. So, 4 years.
It's a good old bit of Viking heritage.
Yeah, they were there, fucking slaying shit up, probably having a good time. And then 1266, so 150-ish years later than that, King Magnus VI of Norway sold his suzerainty over Man to King Alexander III of Scotland under the Treaty of Perth.
Go on the jocks.
Go on the jocks, claiming islands. Islands? Islands, not islands. Islands. After a period of alternating rule by the kings of Scotland and England, Ireland came under the feudal lordship of the English crown in 1399. The lordship revested in the British crown in 1765, but the island did not become part of the 18th century Kingdom of Great Britain, nor of its successors, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, and the present-day United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So it's still its own thing. It's not part of, like, the Great Britain or anything like that. So if you're from the Isle of Man, you go to the Olympics. Do you have, like... Because wasn't that Cavendish for Mark Cavendish?
Cavendish rode, yeah, but
Did he have a British flag?
I think he rode.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, he was Team GB.
Because this is saying that it's basically its own thing. It's not part.
I think
of GB,
I think in the Commonwealth they go under the Manx banner.
Okay,
possibly.
Makes sense. That's fine. Anyway.
Fact check that.
It's always retained its internal self-government. In 1881, the Isle of Man Parliament became the first national legislative body in the world to give women the right to vote.
Progressive.
That's fucking sick. Although this excluded married women.
Well, what the fuck?
Wait, what?
But didn't like
Is
back
that like
in the day,
that like the husbands? Did they just think the husbands were going to vote by proxy for them? So like whatever the husband decided was what was happening.
Maybe I was say, but surely back in the day, women would get married off quite young, didn't they? So the amount of unmarried women would have been very, very small amount.
Yeah, but they were just doing that. They were like, "Oh no, you can vote," and they were like, "Oh, all right, fair." So it was to
Until
stop
you get
people
married.
running out in front of the fucking horses and shit.
Yeah.
But
When was that? Sorry.
1881.
Yeah, well before everybody else.
Yeah, when was like Emily Pankhurst and all that shit? That was
Isn't that like
10s.
Didn't we go
20s?
sort of cover this in the first episode? It was like 1930s or 1920s, but it was still limited to rich women.
Oh yeah, you had to like own land, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, Emmeline Pankhurst died in 1928.
Was she the one who ran out in front of the horse?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was.
Did she die from the horse?
I don't know, actually. I'm sure she was the one that ran out. No, maybe it wasn't, actually. No, I don't think she was the one that ran out in front of the horse. Who was that? Let's give a shout out to that lady. Let me find her name. Hang on. Because that's some fucking crazy shit. Have you ever seen that video?
What, her running out in front of the horse?
Yeah. Have you not
I've
seen
seen
it?
pictures of it, I think.
Dude, Emily Davison. That's the suffragette that did that at Epsom. Wait, what year was that? Oh, I just want to watch this video now. I'll cut this out. You seen that? It's fucking nutty.
Oh no.
I should got whacked. Oh, this is fucking brightness has gone down. Look at this shit. Oh, she got clobbered.
And she died from that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a horse running like 30 mile an hour straight into you.
Yeah.
Horses are huge. When was that?
Speaking of horse racing,
1913. She ran out in front of the horse.
I was at horse racing yesterday for a stag do.
Nice.
First time ever been.
How did you find it?
I come out break even because I put
That's good.
0 bets on.
Was it enjoyable?
I was enjoying the beer and the food
Yeah, I just
and
don't.
the sun.
Like, I get it, but I just don't. It doesn't
did-
really do
there was-
anything for me.
There was one guy fell off. There's 2 horses went down quite close to where we were stood, and the old screen come up pretty quick, but the horses did like get up and go away. So I
So
thought
what
they
did
were
they shoot the
I
rider?
thought they were shooting the jockey. To be fair, I was like, yeah, go on.
Anyway, yeah, so they gave them the right to vote pretty early. And then I found this is more recent sort of history, but the Manx economy is bolstered by its status as a tax haven and offshore banking destination. So I bet there's a lot of like rich motherfuckers that have got accounts and shit. And
I read a thing.
Did you read a thing?
I don't know whether you've got this, but I think per capita, so it's like obviously per population, it's the fifth richest country.
Is that just one of them where the stats are weird though, because there's hardly anyone there?
Yeah, because there's quite a small population, but I think everyone who's there is like pretty well off.
What was your guess on the population of the Isle of Man?
I don't know. It's not a very big place, is it? 28,000?
Oh, you're well off.
Am I? Okay.
Is it 2021 census?
Yeah.
Population was 84,000.
84,000.
That's quite a lot still though, for like the size of the
That is.
island. Although to be fair, that's what is it, like 6 million in London?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, more than that. It's
Is
like
it? Is it
17
like 10
million
million?
in London.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was less than that.
No.
Oh, it's like 6 million in Scotland. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
there's
what I
like-
had in my head.
There's 5 million in the whole of Scotland.
And then like 17 in
17
London.
in London, all living on top of each other.
Ugh, I fucking hate London so much. Yeah, so it's just a tax haven. Insurance and online gambling each generate 17% of the GMP, followed by information and communications technology. So basically a lot. The status has also brought the problems of money laundering, financial crime, and terrorism financing. What the fuck?
Money terrorists.
Yeah.
Terrorists.
Then, internationally, the Isle of Man is known for the TT, which is what we're going to talk about, motorcycle races, and the Manx cat, a breed with short or no tails.
Yeah, I heard a story about this. The legend goes they were the last two animals on Noah's Ark, and as Noah was closing the door, he trapped their tails in the door. But that wouldn't necessarily work, would it, that legend? Because just because someone loses a finger doesn't mean that their kid's born without a finger.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
You've
Yeah.
debunked Noah's Ark.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's bullshit.
Groundbreaking shit here on this podcast. We've just
Yeah.
debunked Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Tell me that was true again. That's about as far as my notes go this week, to be
Oh
honest.
no.
Yeah?
Well,
I'm just free-flowing.
yeah. Well, I was going to say my notes aren't too much better. Most of this is going to be off the top of my head.
So we're going to get all of the facts wrong. So anything we say, Google it.
Maybe given in evidence.
Yeah. Anything we say may be given an evidence, but just
Bear with.
bear with.
No, I got-
fact check everything.
I got a few stats and things written down, but just before you start, so like this is going to be aimed, or this is aimed for everybody really, but if you know what the TT is all about, just bear with. A lot of this stuff you would have already heard of.
Yeah, we're trying to broaden the audience of
Yeah.
the TT.
So if you've never heard of the Isle of Man TT before, we're gonna dumb this down right the way back to the start and go from there.
Yeah,
So-
just bear with. We'll go quick. So for those who don't know, what actually is Irish road racing then?
It's a motorbike race, mainly on sports bikes. Takes place on public roads, which are shut during race events. They're mainly held on A roads. The bikers then take themselves and their sports bikes around the roads, racing between stone walls, hedges, and trees. If you've seen any sort of like short circuit racing, MotoGP or superbike racing, just imagine that, but down your local country road.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking savage.
It's wild.
Yeah.
One of the biggest road racing events isn't actually held in Ireland though. It takes place on a little island between the UK mainland and Ireland in the middle of the Irish Sea, and that'll be the race that we're talking about today, the Isle of Man TT.
Oh fuck yeah, buddy.
Oh yeah. So this race isn't started like a mass start. If you've seen any other bike racing, they all start together on the grid and they all go off at the same time.
It's much just any racing usually, isn't it?
Yeah, like if you watch Formula 1, they all start together and go. But like this one, they start at 10-second intervals, and then their positions are decided like by the quickest times around the course. So this particular course,
It's like a
each
time
lap's
attack.
37.73 miles. And then like in the superbike races, they'll do 6 laps of that, including like a couple of pit stops and things like that. But yeah, a 6-lap race on like a superbike around there is 226.3 miles,
Jesus.
and they're doing that in like under 2 hours.
That's fucking nuts.
which shows you the sort of speed that they're doing through trees, stone walls,
Villages.
up on the mountain. They go up through a mountain section on the lap. They go through these little villages, literally riding past like people's front doors at like 180 miles an hour.
It'd be like scudding through Bredhurst
Yeah.
at like 200 mile an hour.
Yeah, and then like
Fuck that.
the top speed I think this year was 203 miles an hour.
Is that Michael Dunlop?
Yeah, through Solby. Basically, at one part of the course, Solby Straight, they've got like a speed trap.
I think that's the fastest point they get to, I think.
Yeah. So if you hear us talking about like the average lap of whatever, it's because like there's some corners that are like 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour corners. Then there's obviously other bits that they're getting close to like 200 miles an hour. So they average that out across the whole lap, and they'll time it. You'll get times of like 17 minutes something, but that would equate to like an average mile an hour. And that sort of like, you'll hear somebody going, 130 miles an hour lap is the average across that whole thing.
Yeah, so a lot of people hear that and go, that's not that quick.
Yeah, but that's
My
not
Ford
top speed.
Ka did 140 once. Yeah, of course it did. That's not what we're talking
Might have
about.
done downhill with the wind behind
Yeah,
it.
this is over 37 miles of fucking up and down the gearbox. Oof.
Putting that bike through its paces.
Hell yeah.
So it's not just like a time trial as well as such. It's pretty
It's
much
like an endurance
endurance.
as well, yeah.
Like both for the rider and the bike.
Bro, those bikes take a battering.
Yeah.
You know when like you're riding along the road and you hit a pothole and then like you feel like your bike's falling apart. Like imagine hitting a pothole at that speed and then doing that for 220 miles.
Yeah. And all
Over
the
bumps and jumps and
Yeah.
fucking
like little. If you can like, obviously when the racing isn't on, you can drive around these roads. Like you have to drive around the roads to like get to places, and you can basically ride the course if you want to, and you'll be like just driving along at 30 miles an hour or whatever, and you might hit like a small little bump in the road. It's not even a bump to you like when you're driving your car at 30. It's just a normal bit of road. You imagine hitting that at like 180 miles an hour. That turns into a humongous jump on these bikes.
yeah, that turns into some Evel Knievel shit right there.
And if
Fucking
you-
jumping.
Yeah, if you know nothing about the Isle of Man TT at the minute, possibly just pause this and then just try and find like some highlights or something on YouTube
Yeah.
or whatever, and just you'll see what we mean. So you'll give you a better idea as we're talking about some of the stuff these crazy guys are doing.
Yeah, if you just type in like Isle of Man TT highlights and then just watch some of the crazy shit, there'll be loads of compilation videos on YouTube.
You'll see how close they're getting to walls.
And then come back to us, don't leave us hanging.
Yeah, please come back.
Yeah, please come back. We need the listens so I can quit my day job.
If you hear any little noises come, we've got a little special guest here with us today, JJ the Rat.
Yeah, I bought my dad 2 rats the other year and he's killed one of them. And the other one's still breathing.
Just about. Yeah, so held on public roads basically. So they're racing past stone walls, lamp posts, trees. They get up on the mountain section of the course. There's just sheer drops off the sides. It's pretty dangerous. So if you can imagine, if you went to a racetrack, you've got runoff, you've got like gravel traps, you've got airbags, you've got all sorts of safety features in place. You've got none of that around the Isle of Man TT. I mean, they put like little cushions and things around the lamppost, but I think that's more to try and save the lamppost.
It's to protect the lamppost, yeah. If you hit that shit when you come off the speeds these guys are doing, then you're fucked.
Yeah.
I think.
So it's been sort of hailed as the first ever motorcycle race, the oldest motorcycle race, and also the most dangerous.
Yeah, straight up.
Since 1907, there's been 102 events held. So it's only been cancelled between 1915 and 1919 for the First World War, between 1940 and 1945 for the Second World War. It was cancelled in 2001 due to the foot and mouth disease, and for 2 years, 2020, 2021, for the COVID scam.
Couldn't resist.
Couldn't resist. That
Couldn't
stuff.
resist.
So yeah, 102 events. Do you know how many fatalities there's been in them 102 events?
It was upwards of 200, wasn't it?
267 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Wow.
But then fatalities also include the Manx TT, so the Manx GP racing, which is held later on in the year. It's more of an amateur. It's the same track. It's more amateur, and they do classic TTs, do like classic bike racing and things like that. Yeah, same course, but then fatalities all join together.
Wow.
So yeah, you're averaging about 2 a year. 2 people a year die.
Which sounds crazy. So like a lot of people listen to this and be like, why the fuck do they still allow them to do it?
Yeah.
But no one's forcing them to. No one's forcing them to do that.
Yeah.
They choose to do it. They know the risks. Because I can imagine the reward of even just finishing a TT race must be like just fucking insane. Like the adrenaline you must get. Like they're doing like 180 mile an hour with their heads 2 inches away from a fucking stone wall. Like
Yeah.
that adrenaline rush must be insane. So I can imagine the.
Well, this is the thing. It used to be on. It used to be on the calendar for the World Championships. So all your top riders, if you wanted to be a motorcycle world champion, you had to go and race at TT.
Yeah.
But
So that would have been like your likes of Valentino Rossi and whatnot, or all
yeah,
other short circuit races that would be forced
because
to do
a lot of the tracks used to be just public roads anyway. Like Assen used to be a road, and like Spa and things like that. They used to just be roads, and then eventually some of them were turned into racetracks, proper racetracks with all of the stuff around. So yeah, it used to be part of the motorcycle Grand Prix World Championships. So if you wanted to be a world champion of motorcycle racing, you had to race there. And that was from 1949 to 1976. It was part of the calendar. After the 1972 races, multiple world champion Giacomo Agostini. So like
if anyone who knows MotoGP, he's a legend.
He's a legend. Most Grand Prix wins ever. Still to this day, it's still not been beaten. But yeah, he said he'd never race there again, declaring it too dangerous for international competition. And it was outrageous that such a race should ever be part of a scenario professional riders were forced into.
I agree with him though.
Yeah,
Like I wouldn't want to be. Like I'd feel comfortable. It'd still be scary as fuck doing track racing. Like that's still nuts. But I'd feel more comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And then if they were just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's this fucking A road. Go and tear your 1000cc motorbike down there as quick as you want. You'd be like, what the fuck? No way.
Yeah. So more riders joined the boycott, and by the time we got to 1976, it had basically been taken out of the calendar. So from 76 onwards, it's been voluntary. So everybody who wants to go and race there will go and race there of their own accord. No one's holding a gun to their head. And this is sort of one of the arguments that a lot of people have tried to get it cancelled over the years. Every time somebody dies there, it's a big story in the papers. Like no one really gives a shit about it any other time until someone dies, and then it's like, oh, we should cancel this. It's too dangerous.
It's barbaric.
But all of the riders know the risks. It's just something that they love doing. It is mental and crazy.
It's the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Like with my own eyes. Like
yeah,
I've seen some crazy videos, but it's actually seeing that in real life is fucking nuts.
Yeah. So, but these guys are absolute gladiators.
Oh, they're fucking heroes.
It's unreal. They go like even now, they do like 6 laps in the big bike, in a super bike, in the senior TT. So they do 6 laps. It's 226 miles in total. So it's like doing London to Manchester on A roads, and they're doing it in less than 2 hours at the minute.
That is a joke.
On A roads.
If you think when we go to Liverpool from Kent, that's like 260 miles, and we're on motorways most of the way,
Yeah,
and it
straight
takes
roads.
us 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And like that, they're on A roads, B roads, fucking country lanes, going flat out on these giant superbikes. No,
It's crazy.
Fucked up. So, but yeah, so it's basically a time trial. So you're not racing against each other as such. You're racing against your best time on the course, if you like. So you're constantly trying to do a quicker time. Where it's obviously a huge distance. So it's 37 3/4 miles long, the track. Whereas obviously your standards, Brands Hatch is like 2 miles long. So that kind of gives it in your head how long one lap is. But they measure it off of obviously time. So it's how long it takes you to get around. Like we're saying in a big bike race, 6 laps, it's like an hour and
40 something like that.
40 minutes,
Yeah.
something like that. So a long time you're racing. but they will also, when they measure how quick you've gone, they go off of your average speed for the lap. Going on with the times and how they record the times, there's a lot of people chase so they will fixate more on I'd say their speed, that the average mile an hour lap.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I don't really hear a lot of people talking about how quick they went round, as in it took me 17 minutes. It'll be like, oh, I did 100 and something mile an hour lap, or I did this quick. So they try and improve on that, and that's generally when someone breaks a new lap record. It's obviously been a quicker time, but it's usually the mile an hour. The average speed that they went round is what gets kind of like put on the stickers and put in the book. It's like that's the thing. So moving on to that.
So we had
So what was the first? That very first.
The very first one.
The very first. So 1907. What was the?
I got this.
I think I saw something the other day, and I'm sure it said it took them 4.5 hours to do like a 3-lap race or something.
Yeah.
Because they used to do a shorter circuit, didn't they? Like 1907 to 1920 something. Was it?
1907 to 1911 was a slightly different circuit.
It was like 10 miles long. I think.
It was short, and then from 1911 they've been pretty much using the same layout.
Exactly.
Give or take a few little changes.
They've had to change, but
there's not been much.
No, it's pretty much the same course as what it was 100 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah. So 1907, I don't have the average lap, just because I wanted to sort of compare it back to the track that they're using today.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1911, it was the first races held on the mountain course, the Snaefell mountain course.
Yeah, the one that they still use today.
Yeah, and the fastest lap around that, it took them 44 minutes and 52 seconds to get around the lap.
To do one lap.
And it was an average speed of 50.11 miles an hour.
So when we go out there now and we do like a lap, obviously when they open the roads back up, you can ride around the course, but obviously you've got to stop at traffic lights,
all the traffic,
you've got to wait for all the traffic, you've got to wait for cars. Like it's a normal road, like it's back up. You can still drive around the course, but it's not like a racetrack. It probably takes me about that time to get around because when you get to the mountain section, they open it up and you can go both sides of the road. There's only one way. There's no speed limit, so that's kind of like where you can have fun. But for the rest of it, you have to really be strict with speed limits. But it probably takes us about, what did you say it was, 40?
Yeah, 44 minutes.
44 minutes to do a lap. So that's what they were doing when they were racing it in 1911, did you say?
Yeah, 1911.
So that was the first one.
50 mile an hour average lap. Incidentally, 1911 was the first fatality included, associated with the TT, basically.
And where was that? Who was it?
Victor Surridge. He was on Craig Willie's Hill near the Glen Helen section of the course. He basically went into a hedge, broke his neck, and he was only 19 years of age at the time.
That was old back then.
He is the first fatality in the TT course. First of many. So out of the 264 corners around this track, and with there being 267 competitors that have died racing around here, which one do you think is the deadliest?
It's a question and a half, that. I don't know, because every section is fucking sketchy.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost, there hasn't been, because I obviously have seen the numbers, but that's almost a rider per corner.
Imagine if it had worked out like that. That would
that'd be mad. If every corner took one life, at least.
I don't know. I'll say Quarry Bends.
Not on there.
Not on there.
Well, it's on there, but it's not on my little
top list.
Top 6. It's not made the big 6.
It's not made the big 6.
No, they're like a Tottenham.
Shit. Or Balagary, or Balascary as it's sometimes called.
Oh, Balascary, yeah. Balascary's got 7 in 6th place.
Fucking hell.
Why do they call it Balascary?
Because it's fucking scary. If anyone needs to see what Balagary is, just type in YouTube, James Hillier, Balascary, and just watch that video. It's from was the year we went with, 2019?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Watch that and tell me it's not fucking sketchy.
Do you want to try and guess 5th place?
Ooh. Ren Cullen.
Ren Cullen with 9.
9.
Yeah.
Wait, is that 5th?
That's 5th place. Yeah. Well,
Fucking hell.
there's 3 places sort of like
Joint now.
all joint with 9.
Oh, fuck knows. Tell me.
You got
Reel them off.
You got Union Mills.
Alright.
You've got our favourite little place to watch. Nice slow bit.
Ballock Bridge.
Ballock Bridge.
Oof.
Nice little humpback bridge. A great pub there. Great
Yeah.
place to watch.
Is it the Raven?
The Raven.
Nice pub.
Yeah.
Wicked place to watch.
They've-
They slow right down from, well, pretty much top speed to 180, whatever. Slow right down to 30, 40, first gear.
14.
And they just jump at this little humpback bridge and they jump it, but they slow right down. You hear them slamming down the gearbox, and then they get there, and you know, and they land. They get some air.
And it's really interesting to see all the different styles.
Yeah,
of riders
because
that
you'll
come
see
over.
some come over and they're like back wheel lands first. Some come over and their front wheel lands first. Some come over and
Just fly the
they
whole
just
fucking
fly.
thing.
Some don't even jump.
You
They
watch,
slow right down.
See if there's any videos of Josh Brooks jumping
that
back.
motherfucker
That
jumps
he
it.
jumps it.
He's
You
like,
got
he's like trying to clear the pub.
both the Dunlop boys. They come over it. Wheels
Like
down.
they come over
front wheel
everything,
down.
fucking nuts.
Yeah, and then the bikes bottom out, and then they just straight back on it.
Straight
again.
back on the gas and fly back out, right back up to full speed again.
So have you got you want to have a guess of the second place, the runner up?
No, tell me. There's too many corners to choose from.
Up on the mountain, 33rd milestone. Yeah, there's
33rd.
10 fatalities there,
Is that before or after Windy Corner?
just after Windy Corner,
I think I know the corner.
before Keppelgate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So after you've battled with
fuck
Windy
crashing
Corner,
there.
I mean,
Fuck crashing anywhere on the course, actually.
Yeah.
But fuck crashing
fuck
there.
crashing anywhere. But Windy Corner is named Windy Corner for a very good reason, which I didn't realise until my first time over the mountain. That I get to it, I'm just leaning the bike around, and I'm not going anywhere near as quick as what these boys are doing, and the wind just blows straight through you, and you sort of like, obviously depending on which way, I'd imagine which way the wind's blowing at the time, but I know
Yeah,
when I've been
changing.
over there, you're having to lean the bike into the wind, but as you come
Yeah.
out the corner, the wind sort of isn't holding you up anymore. Sometimes
It's
you feel like you're
It's
leaning
like a little wind tunnel between two mountains. So like you go into the corner and you kind of lean in, and there's no wind, and then you ride through this wind tunnel for 10 seconds.
Oh, these boys are
Well,
probably riding through
they're
it for a
riding through it for
second.
about half a second. Yeah, we're going through it at 10 seconds, but you're riding through it, so you're battling the wind, and then all of a sudden it just drops off when you get out like the other side of like the little gap that's created in between the two mountains, and it's just like fucking.
I mean,
but
I
the
thought,
first time I
was
went
going
over
to
it,
ride off the edge of it.
I went over it twice before I realised why it was called Windy Corner.
Oh, you didn't get the wind the first
No,
time?
first time I went round, I was just mind I was like, Windy Corner. Like you see they have little signs basically before you get to every corner, so like saying where you are on the course. It said Windy Corner. I was just like, oh, okay, and I was expecting. I was like, oh, that was fucking nothing. Went round it a second time, and I was like, oh, maybe it just weren't windy. Weren't windy again. I was like, fucking Windy Corner. What bullshit is that? And then the third time I went round, because of my previous 2 attempts, I was like, it'll be fine. So I kind of went a little bit quicker than what I probably should have done. And then that time there'd be wind. The wind catch me.
The wind got you good.
Yeah, fucking Windy Corner. That was second, did you say?
That was second, 33rd milestone. Yeah,
Okay.
so we went off tangent there. It was the 33rd milestone that was second, but then we ended up talking more about Windy Corner. But that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool.
That's
Windy
fine.
Corner's awesome.
Everyone has to know about Windy Corner.
Windy Corner's windy.
Yeah, top.
Hit me
Yeah,
with it.
well, I say top. The deadliest.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Claimed another one this year.
Alpine?
Alpine Cottage. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's got 11 fatalities on it now, so it only just pipped the 33rd just
They've
this
got-
year.
So what else has got 10 then? You got
33rd milestone.
oh, nice.
10. So obviously, when we was first researching, well, I say researching, most of this is sort of like
in our
stuff
heads,
we
but-
know off the top of our heads. But just getting like the final numbers in place. When we was researching, Alpine Cottage had 10, so did the 33rd. But then this year, Raul Martinez,
Mhm.
yeah, he lost his life there as well. So
Rest in
it's
peace.
taking top spot, if you
Damn.
can call it top spot. Bit
It's not really
morbid.
a spot you want to be in, is it?
No.
It's fucking crazy. There are 11 people there.
Yeah.
Mad.
So that's probably our little section for deadliest corners.
Yeah, we did a pretty fucking sad podcast last week. I think maybe we should
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't.
maybe we
stick on
should
the
head
sad.
off of the deaths.
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot of death around this.
Let's
one
go
as
back
well.
to the fun shit.
Yeah. Have we got something for like death? Maybe we
Maybe.
should just be like all the other podcasts and just do true crimes and murders and stuff.
Fuck
That'd
those
be
guys.
fun, wouldn't it?
Call ourselves Blue-footed. It's definitely not
Is that a
rip-off.
reference to somebody else?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a rip-off of another podcast.
So over the years, all the bikes, we've used various different types of bikes and classes over the years. So you used to have 500cc 2-strokes, 250cc 2-strokes. We had on 125s and things like that. And since they lost their World Championship status over the years, they've used more like street bikes, like production-based bikes you can buy out of a shop, and then they basically fit all of the trick bits to it, and away they
They
go.
tune it all up.
So,
and that, so.
I think during the 80s you had like production A, production B, production C and D. They were all like different sized engines worth of bikes. You maybe had 750s and all of that sort of stuff for all the different classes. But up to the current date, what we use now in the classes is we'll have a superbike class, which is 1000cc sports bikes, which you basically buy from the shop, and then all of the trick bits get added to it. So like
You can change like ECUs, you can change like
exhaust systems,
you can change fucking pretty much everything on it. It's like a top of the range bike. That is there. Like that's,
yeah. So that's
I'd say they're one step off of like a MotoGP bike by that point.
yeah.
Like MotoGP bikes, they're like prototypes.
Prototypes.
They're built for MotoGP. You can't buy them out of a shop. Like they're not for sale. They cost millions of pounds to make, whereas these ones are still have a hell of a lot of money, but you can buy it out the shop and then change all the bits on it, and it's just this absolute monster of a motorbike.
And then you've got a super stock bike, which is basically the same bike that you would buy out. That's the same 1000cc bike, but you're not allowed to do much to it. So basically, you'd buy the bike, you take off the mirrors, take off the indicators, take off the number plate, and
that's pretty much
maybe
it.
change the tyres, and then it's all about setup from there. Like you set it to.
I think they can change. They can add like an aftermarket exhaust onto it. I think, but you can't fuck with it to the levels that you can fuck with it in a superbike race. So it's called a super stock because it's basically a stock motorbike.
And then you've got the Super Sport, which is a 600 version.
600cc engines.
Yeah. 600cc bike, which you can buy at the shop. Again, you take all your bits off it, you tune it up a little bit, and away you go. And then you've got the lightweight class, which is basically, they've changed it up a little bit now, but you've got between 650 and 700cc engines, and then a prototype frame basically built around a lot of them. A couple of the old racers built their own frames around them. Then you've got a couple of other guys got involved since. You've got the Yamaha R7, a few people running now. So it's a lightweight class. They're probably a lot easier to ride. They're not the monsters of the super bikes and the super
Probably,
stocks.
as far as you can say, a motorbike's forgiving. They're probably the most forgiving out of.
Yeah.
Although you don't really have a lot of room for error, no matter what you're riding around on the TT, because no runoffs and shit. So you still got to be bang on it. You can't fuck up. But I feel like it's a little bit easier to ride. So.
And then you've also got the sidecars which go around, but we'll talk about them crazy guys.
We're getting onto the sidecars later. They are fucking hang around for that shit.
So growing on 50 mile an hour average lap in 1957, so a good 46 years later, we got the first 100 mile an hour lap, and that was Bob McIntyre.
So again, that means that in average 100 mile an hour, so it wasn't his top speed. His top speed probably would have been 120 or something.
Yeah.
Back then, 130. But the average lap is 100 miles, around 37 miles, which is fucking insane. I think if I could do a 100 mile an hour average lap, I'd be gassed. And that was back in 1957.
1957, yeah. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Pretty insane.
That's already getting stupid quick.
That just so happened to be as well the year that 1957 500cc class, which was classed as the senior TT at the time. They held it over 8 laps. It was 301.84 miles, the total race. To date, this is the longest race in Grand Prix motorcycle history.
Damn.
So that was while it was still part of the World
still
Championships.
part of the World Championships.
Yeah. 8 laps of that. So yeah, that was a 100 mile an hour lap then, so 1957. So from 1957 right the way through, I mean, you had you had other people breaking the 110 mile an hour lap, so that would have been, by the time it got to the 100 mile an hour, it's like going up in increments of like your 10 miles an hour for an average lap. Yeah, so from 100 mile an hour lap in 1957, it took until 1976 to get the first 110 mile an hour lap, and that was by John Williams.
So it was like 20 years.
Yeah, so 20 years to add 10 miles an hour to the average.
You think the difference between like cars and bikes in the 50s to 70s as well?
Yeah, like all of that technology and
it's
new
only
tyres.
just gone to an extra 10 mile an hour average.
Yeah, and then it took another 13 years until Steve Hislop got the first 120 mile an hour lap. So like these are big like milestone events when these lap records are going. This is huge.
So when he crossed the line, they were like, "That's the first 120 mile an hour lap." I bet people were losing their fucking minds.
Yeah,
like,
that's
what?
a big deal.
Imagine, because what year was that?
1989.
89. So yeah, 70 years before that was how quick? 50 mile an hour.
50 mile an hour. Yeah, so he's gone double and a bit.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. So but then it took until 2007 for John McGuinness to break the 130 mile an hour barrier.
That's
obscene.
another.
So you think at the time, you're going as quick as you physically can go around these bends.
Yeah, like when he broke the 120 mile an hour, people would have been like, there is no way you can go around this course quicker. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is going flat out where they can go flat out. They're braking as late as they possibly can for corners. They're getting as much corner speed around these corners as they possibly can, and then it's still fucking.
And it's still climbing up.
It's still climbing up. And you say John McGuinness 2007.
2007.
For 130 miles an hour. That's 130 mile an hour average. Like until you've been there as well, and you see these roads, or you've at least ridden around the course. You like some of these corners. You're like, I wouldn't want to take them going any quicker than 50 mile an hour. And then you watch these fuckers, and they come around like 140, knee on the deck, head in a bush, and you're just like, how the fuck is that even possible? Like, I remember coming into Kirkmichael when I went. I was doing like 50, 60 into the 30 mile an hour bend, and I was like, I'm fucking having it. And I looked down, I was like, 60 mile an hour, oh, you bad motherfucker. And then literally the next day we watched from Kirkmichael, and you see them come around there, they're like in the fucking bush. It's like, you're like, oh fuck, like no way is that real.
They're like, you can see them like lifting their heads like round lampposts.
Yeah, like they're literally ducking their fucking head out of the way because they don't want to twat it off of a wall.
It's absolutely crazy.
Crazy shit. So yeah, 130 mile an hour is like, the average lap is insane.
And it's sort of that 130 mile an hour now is sort of something that a lot of the riders go there to try and get.
Yeah, like 100 mile an hour. So now, when was that? 2007.
That was 2007.
So we're nearly 15 years later.
Yeah, 16 years later.
16 years later, and 130 mile out. It's like
it's still an obscene race.
Yeah, if there's still, what is it, like the top 10? Sorry, that get about 130.
Well, it's getting quicker and quicker every year.
It's getting quicker and quicker every year, but
at the time, he was the only one doing 130.
Yeah.
And then, like, since then, in the last 16 years, more and more people are adding to that. And so, I think just a few years ago, it was like, I think only 25 people had done like 130 mile an hour lap. And now you're talking about the top 20 are sort of doing, at least at some point, doing 130 mile an hour lap at some point during the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely crazy, because now to be winning the race, you've got to be going even faster than 130 miles an hour.
Which is fucking insane.
And you got a sub 17 minute lap was one of the other big things. So bearing in mind, we said the first one was 44 minutes for a lap.
Yeah, which is what we would sort of take if we were driving around here.
So
44-minute lap was 1911, did you say?
Yeah.
And now they're doing it in
Like
sub 17 minutes.
They're doing 133 mile an hour plus
37 3/4 miles in under 17.
Yeah.
Not on motorways. Like, that would be insane on a fucking motorway.
Yeah.
If you know, when you're going down a motorway and you see like London 37 miles, if you did that in 17 minutes, you'd be like, fucking hell, I'm tanking it. And that's on a motorway. Like, when it's a straight road meant for going that quick. Like, they're on 30-40 mile an hour roads.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around how stupidly quick that is.
And they're only probably going the maximum. So like, if their top speeds, I think their top speeds this year were like 203 mile an hour.
Yeah, 200. I think 203 was official at the top, like through a speed trap
Yeah.
on a certain section called, is it Selby Straight?
It's on the Selby Straight.
So that's like there's not many sections on the course where the bikes are flat out at the very top of what they can go, because there's not many. You constantly like corners and bumps and shit. You've always got to be rolling off. But Selby Straight's one of the parts of the track where they are just pinned, sixth gear, fucking full throttle, tucked in behind the ferry and go as quick as they can. They go through the speed trap. Like I say, this year was 203 mile an hour.
That happened like once.
That happened. Well, they hit 203 mile an hour through the speed trap, and it's like fuck, like. Yeah,
like, that's not to say that they're not doing close to 200 mile an hour elsewhere.
Yeah,
elsewhere. They're just not doing the 203 everywhere else.
That's like the bit where they are going the fastest, but there's still sections where they're
doing like 110. So if you're going past the grandstand, it's just quite a straight road. As you're going down,
well, it's straight until you're doing
straight until you're doing that sort of speed.
Yeah.
They're going about 180s past the grandstand.
Yeah, that's.
They're then coming to the top of Bray Hill, which is right at the very start of the lap. They pull away from the start line, and they're coming down Bray Hill at like 180 odd miles an hour.
Bray Hill is one of them as well. You could Google Bray Hill right now and watch videos on YouTube of them coming down Bray Hill, and you're like, wow, that's steep. Until you're actually there, stood at the bottom of Bray Hill looking up, or you're riding down it yourself, you're like, fuck, it is so steep. And they're flat out. They get to the bottom of the dip, like the belly pans are like the suspension's full work, belly pan scrapes off the floor, and then it fires and back up the other side of the hill. A couple of mil
off the curb on the inside.
Oh, it's fucking crazy. That curb shot where they put the camera.
Yeah.
It's insane. You see them come flying down the hill and they like tear past the camera, like you say, doing like 180 at the bottom of a steep ass fucking. It's crazy, nuts.
Yeah, the videos don't do that hill justice at all. I was so shocked when I rode down that. I was like, oh
yeah,
my
me too.
god!
I mean, the first time I went down it, I was just like, fuck, this is actually steep.
Crazy. But yeah, the lap record this year. 2023.
So that is literally only just finished as well. So that's why
gone.
we thought we'd do the podcast, because it's just been on.
We could be most up to date with the
yeah.
stats.
We thought we'd wait until the end of this year, because we can give you all the best shit. First podcast to talk about, I reckon.
Yeah. So that record last year stood at 135.4 miles an hour. That was set in the 2018 senior TT.
Peter Hickman, wasn't it?
It was Peter Hickman. So, obviously not every year the lap record goes, because it's really weather dependent as well. I mean, next year there'll be no lap records, because every time we go, it rains.
Yeah, we managed to get ferries for next year, but the weather this year it looked fucking insane. And everything, all of the forums I saw, everyone was like, I've never been in the Isle of Man, the weather's been this nice, like fucking red hot.
See, it's
great
crazy,
for racing.
because it's such a long lap, and because it's just a rock in the middle of the Irish Sea. We could be sitting there in the sunshine, and yet the race has been delayed, and we're like, why is the race delayed? And it turns out that it's pissing it down with rain up on the mountain.
Yeah.
And vice versa, it could be lovely up on the mountain, and then it's raining somewhere else on the course. So it's really hit and miss with the weather sometimes. But yeah, it just so happens that every year that we go, I mean, we went in 2019. We were there for 6 days before we saw a single bike go past.
Every time we'd be sat there like, oh yeah, practice session's just about to start. It would be like, no, it's been cancelled because of the rain, and you're like, fuck. And that was another one. The time we were sitting at, I think it was Kurt Michael we were sitting at, and it was sunny, and they put all the barriers out, they shut the road. It was like, fucking sweet, we're finally going to see some bikes. Sat there with a beer, and then it was like, no, it's been cancelled, it's raining, and the other side of the fucking island, and you were like sat there looking at blue skies in the sun, like, what the fuck? Like, no way.
So so not every year that the lap records will go. Like, you need obviously the weather on your side as well. But Hickman become the first person to do the 135 mile an hour lap this year. Jesus Christ.
They are pushing it this year.
Pushing it into 135. The top three mainly, Dean Harrison, Michael Dunlop, and Peter Hickman. They've been the top three this year.
The last couple of years, really.
Last couple of years. No one can really get close to them at the minute. It's not to say it could be anything. It could be like the bikes that they're on might be better. I know, like Harrison was struggling to keep up with Dunlop and Hickman this year, and his bike was down on speed.
It was like 20 mile an hour less, wasn't it?
Yeah.
On speed?
So he's pushing it even harder than them in the corners to even stay somewhere.
Yeah. So if he had a bike that was going that quick, would he have been able to maybe go even quicker?
Yeah. I mean, you think last year, him and Hickey were pushing each other like to the absolute max. So back to 2023 lap record.
which was broken through the super stock race, was it?
During the super stock race. So these are the bikes that are just bought out of, basically straight out of a shop, and away you go, pretty much. Peter Hickman lapped the Isle of Man TT at 136.358 miles an hour.
That's fucking... I can't...
His previous lap record was 135.4. He pretty much got round it another average mile an hour quicker, almost.
I can't... How the fuck did he find... What was the time difference, like?
It was about
10 seconds?
6 seconds, I think it was. Something like that.
6 seconds doesn't sound... It doesn't sound like a lot, but like over the course of 37 miles, like that, where do you find 6 seconds?
When you're already going absolutely
You're already
flat
going
out.
at the absolute... You're going around corners as quick as you can physically get that bike round the corner.
We were discussing this the other day. It was like, where do you think they would find more speed? Like, okay, you can get a little bit more at top speed. That's obviously going to maybe get you a second or so each time you can get to that top speed. Possibly acceleration. If you can improve the acceleration a little bit, you might be able to get out of the corner slightly quicker. You might be able to get up to a speed slightly quicker. But then you then need the brakes to be better as well, because
you can make a bike quicker, but if you don't have the stopping power there to stop that extra power, like you're going to end up having to brake earlier. So if they improve the top speed, they're obviously going to then have to also improve the braking, which is then going to in turn help through round the... I think it's like a whole package. I don't think you can look at it and go, it's just the top speed they need to work on, or it's just this, or it's even like suspensions and chassis and stuff. If they can make the bike feel more stable, like round the lap, you're gonna be able to wind it on a little bit more.
If you could maybe glide over a few more of the bumps slightly better, and but yeah, just squeezing seconds out of it each year, just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. We were discussing, it took from 57 to 2007 to get from 100 mile an hour lap to 130 mile an hour lap. But since 2007 up to 2023, in 16 years, we've gone from 130 to 136 mile an hour lap. We were discussing how long do you think until we get 140 mile an hour lap, and is that even possible?
Well, this was before the 136 mile an hour lap we were having this conversation, so the record was still stood at 135, and I was like, okay, another 5 mile an hour, 100 foot. Like I'm sat there thinking, how can they even get around it any quicker? Because like when you watch it, you're like, especially the like top boys like Hickey, Dunlop, they're going so fucking quick. It's like I don't know how you could get around any quicker. And then fucking 2 days later, Hickey goes around, does 136. You're like, what the fuck? Where has he found 6 seconds on that? Like, it just fucking blows my mind. I can't get my head around it. But we were saying in 10 years. Well, I made a bet. I was like, 10 years. It'll be 140 just. Oh no, I said 138. I think I was like 138. 10 years. Like I don't think I'll be at 140 yet. And then after Hickey's done that shit, I'm starting to think maybe that was. I'm starting to think 140.
Well, I said by 2030 there'll be 140. I reckon.
What's that? 7 years.
Yeah, that's just when the it's.
But that's insane to me. Like the going around 140. But then, like you say, like
the difference in
135
time.
to 136 was insane for me. So
I think the difference in time is round the track. You've got 6 different sector times, so it's sort of 6 sectors. Each time you get to a sector, there's a lot of people who've got like the sector record basically, and if you add up the fastest time in each sector before this year it started, I think the perfect lap using all of them sector times was 136.4, I believe. And that was 16 minutes and 32 seconds around that lap. Now Hickey's just done it. I believe it was 16 minutes and 36. 16 minutes 36 is how quick he done that lap. So he's only 4 seconds off the perfect lap now. I'm not sure, 100% sure on all of the sector records.
Yeah, I think a couple of sector records got smashed this year as well.
Yeah. So the perfect lap will be even less now. But to get to 140 miles an hour lap, I think we had a look at. I think you need to get to 16 minutes and 11 seconds,
So
and we're
like
going
20 seconds. Off.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find another 20 seconds somewhere. Is that possible in the next sort of like 7 years? Every year we go, I don't see how I can go any quicker.
Like 7 seconds is a lot to be finding.
So are they going to be able to find another 20 seconds from somewhere?
I just don't know how you could.
We say that every year.
so mad. I can't even. I suppose that you got 265 corners, 264 corners.
264 corners.
If they
Plus
can,
the straights
if they can like gain a tenth of a second
here and a tenth
on every
of a second
single
there.
on every single corner, they can like roll off just a little bit. Oh, maybe.
Very interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
And you need the good weather as well.
Yeah.
Like not too hot either. I mean, if it's
'cause
too
if
hot,
it's too hot,
they were saying it's not as easy.
yeah, so it kills your tyres and stuff as
yeah,
well. doesn't it?
so a
Like,
little
it's
bit
too-
cooler. Very good. But obviously, the faster they go, the more deaths that tend to happen. As times are getting quicker and quicker and quicker, the speeds at which you're going to potentially crash at
Yeah.
are just...
I mean, if you come off at 30 mile an hour and hit one of them walls, you're going to be in a bad way.
At 30, yeah.
Let alone crashing at 100 plus and sliding into one of them walls, you're not going to be in the best of states after that, are you?
No.
So what did you? How many deaths did we say we had?
There's 267, and that's including the Manx racing as well.
Is that including there was just one death this year, wasn't there?
Just one death, yeah. So that's,
Was that the Spanish? lad,
Raul
was it?
Martinez.
Yeah.
He died during the lightweight TT, which
Which we
from the
had
bikes.
literally just said there was one of the more forgiving ones, but
Yeah.
as you can see, that's not the case as such. But
I think one of the worst years was 2005.
how many?
There was 11 people died. There was 3 riders and 1 marshal died during race. Yeah,
Will someone crash into the marshal? Do you think?
must have done. And 6 riders and 1 course bystander died during the Manx Grand Prix that year.
Fucking hell.
So yeah, I mean it's risky also to go and watch it.
Yeah, like just when we're talking about how risky it is to be on the track racing, like you're literally stood a metre, if that. If some depending on where you're sat, you could be sat literally your legs dangling onto the road if you're stupid enough to do that. But they're coming past you like an arm's length away, doing 100 odd mile an hour. Like it is a risk watching it. I think that's what makes it so exciting because you're watching these guys like literally put themselves on the fucking line, push them bikes to the limit of what they're capable of doing, and you're also like you feel like you're part of that danger as well because you're like shit if he comes off here and the bike flips up the wrong way. That's probably the best way I'd want to go out, to be honest.
Getting hit by a bike
Oh,
at a TT.
mate.
If I could choose
if
a
this
way,
is a simulation and whoever's controlling me can hear, I want to die at the TT with a bike flying through the air and smacking me in the head. Give my mullet a nice little chop with the front wheel.
yeah, we were saying 2005 was the deadliest year, but for actual TT events, 1970 was the most deadly for racers. Just as a TT on its own, that's not including the Manx.
Right. How many was that?
So there was 6, but last year matched that.
It did.
There was 6 last year died as well. So, and I read a thing earlier that since 1937, the only year in which races were held but no fatalities occurred was in 1982.
Big up 1982.
So literally, someone has died every single year competing at the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
And
But that's the thing that's not like when you just read that, people who don't know what it is or don't experience it or don't understand, they're like, oh, we wouldn't carry on playing football if someone died every weekend. You're like, no, we wouldn't. That's because it's football. Like, if someone was dying at football every week, you'd be like...
you have to take a little look at it.
Yeah, you'd be like, okay, maybe we'll take a little look. But, like...
But it'd also be your choice. If you knew the risk that somebody was going to die every week that he was playing football, you knew that risk.
Yeah.
But it's up to you.
You should be able to,
you
should be able to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like,
people go skydiving all the time. How many people die skydiving? But
Exactly,
people still do it.
But yeah, exactly. People die like when they jump out of planes. That doesn't mean we're going to stop people jumping out of planes.
People die surfing all of the time.
People are doing loads of stupid
People
shit.
die up Mount Everest, but people every year still go and climb Everest.
Exactly.
Year.
We're not going to ban that, so I don't see why. If someone wants to jump on a motorbike and see how quick they can get around the most insane place in the world, then fuck it.
I think if it was an event that started up today, it would never be allowed.
No, I think that.
But I think the tradition side of things.
The historic sort of thing, and also, fuck me, if they got rid of the Isle of Man races, I think the Isle of Man would just fall into the sea. Like
It's got to bring a lot of money.
We've been there for a couple of days after race week sometimes, because you can't get ferries back across, like, because obviously there's only a certain amount of ferries that can come in and out. So when you can get over there and get back, you're limited to spaces left on the ferry. I think, was it the first year we went? We were there.
Yeah, we were there till the
year?
Tuesday. So
We were there for like
the last race was on the Friday.
On the Friday, yeah. Well, they've changed it this year, but it's usually on the Friday. So we were there for another like 4 days after the racing finished, and by the second day, everyone had gone. Everyone had gone, and we had done everything that we possibly could on the island. We were just like, now what? Like, there's no one there. Just nothing happens, is it? When there's not
pubs.
them 2 weeks at the TT, nothing happens.
Yeah,
like,
it's just pubs. I wouldn't mind living there. Like,
it'd be
it's pretty
peaceful
chill.
because there's no one to annoy you.
Yeah.
And it is like, as an island itself, it's fucking beautiful. Like, around the coast
pretty.
and stuff, it's unreal, so pretty. But yeah, it's like, I think that's all that the Isle of Man gets its money from, is just the
And the money laundering as well.
oh, and the terrorism,
tax terrorists.
yeah, terrorists, terror. The but yeah, so if they got rid of it, like, you would just fuck a whole 84,000 people in the arse.
Yeah.
Because
It's a massive income for. It's a massive boost to the economy.
even like the ferries, like,
yeah,
they would go under because no one's going out on the ferries to the Isle of Man, like, just throughout the year. But you've got, like, how many people go out there for the Isle of Man every year? Hundreds of thousands. Is there a figure?
I don't even know.
I don't even know you to be
I
able
don't
to
know
catch.
how you'd be able to find it out, because
You'd have to take into account, like, flights.
people fly in, people get ferries in from Ireland and Scotland and.
Do you remember that mate from the pandemic who went from Scotland to the Isle of Man on a jet ski?
Yes.
Because he was messaging that girl on Tinder.
Yeah.
What a hero.
Geezer.
He wouldn't get counted into the official stats, so you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's tried that.
They could be bare jet skiers.
Yeah, exactly. Just plonking up on Ramsey and running in.
Well, I think didn't Joey Dunlop used to bring his own bikes over on his own little boat? From Ireland.
There's probably other
I'm
people
sure
that
I
do
read
that.
a story about that before.
But yeah, there was that crazy cunt the other day that just swam it the first time.
Yeah.
First person to swim from.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in the stats.
He wouldn't be in the stats, depending on where he landed. If you come through the port and show his passport, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I honestly don't know how you'd work out a figure for how many.
either way, there's hundreds of thousands of people, and they charge a couple £100 per person to get on the ferry.
For the ferries, a couple of £100.
That's through the TT though. If you look to go, so like TT's just finished. If I'd look to try and book myself on a ferry with a bike next week, it'd be like
Probably like £14.
£14 to get across. But like through the race week or around the TT, it's like a couple £100, £250. But I don't mind paying it because it's the fucking best thing in the world, honestly.
And you got your accommodation.
Yeah,
but
like,
then
all of those people, like, they'd fuck it if they got rid of it. The Isle of Man would be fucked.
You got all these people, they like basically like rent rooms out in their houses, and so they get an extra little bit of money.
Yeah, they just move out for 2 weeks. They're like, we've seen enough of the Isle of Man. We're good. They go to Liverpool for a couple of weeks. Everyone else is coming from Liverpool over, and they just basically rent their house out for 2 weeks. But they can charge like 40, 50, 60 a night, like depending on where it is.
Then you got all the hotels that people are staying in, all the campsites. So all the farmers' fields, like they open up the campsites and take all the money for that.
It gets a massive economy.
All the pubs,
boost.
all the shops, all the tattooists.
Yeah,
Listen, everyone gets tattoos out there.
Always. But yeah, like you said, like even the pubs. Like, how many people are sitting in the Hawthorn? Throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a few like locals and that kind of people, but not enough to keep it open.
Yeah. Shout out to the Hawthorn.
Yeah, no,
that's our main go-to.
I fucking love the Hawthorn. It's right on the circuit. Great, perfect space.
Right on a straight.
Good beer.
Quick. There.
Good beer, good food.
Good beer, good food.
I want a discount next time we go now. I've told the 3 people that are going to be listening to this podcast about the Hawthorn. So.
Yeah, you might get an extra one if they ever visit.
Yeah, exactly. But like somewhere like that wouldn't stay open without the TT.
No.
But like those 2 weeks, how much money do you reckon an average pub makes?
I wouldn't
Because
even have to guess.
I'd love to know how many like litres of beer get sold, or how many pints of beer get sold over them 2 weeks.
Crazy.
Across the whole island, it must be insane.
Because it's a pretty party atmosphere as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like once the racing's done, like there's always parties going on at campsites down in the towns. They have like bands on. It's like a full festival for like 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically a festival for bikes.
Yeah, literally, it's amazing.
When
the weather's nice.
I think if you're ever looking at going on holiday somewhere, and just for 1 year you want to do something slightly different and experience something different, save the money that you were going to spend going to a nice sunny place. If you can bear to do that for a year and get yourself to the Isle of Man and that for that week and just see what it's all about.
You can fly out there, like if you're not bothered about taking a bike or anything, if you don't have a bike but you just want to do it, you can fly out there and hire cars. Like flights are always really available, and it's like a half-hour flight from like London, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. But
And
it's
even if
just,
you only stay for a couple of days,
yeah,
just
like
get
you're just
yourself
down there
down
for a
to the
weekend
track,
even.
get yourself down to track, watch the first couple of bikes go past. I can guarantee you'll be hooked, and you'll be like, I'm coming back next year.
Yeah,
Like-
and if you're not, you'll at least walk away going, that is the nuttiest thing I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Yeah, and it will make you want to tell everybody about it.
And you'll do the thing where you're telling people about it, and they're just looking at you like you're a fucking idiot. But trust me,
which
it's
we've
worth
had
it.
multiple times.
Which
We're probably getting right now.
Yeah, I'm
People
picturing
thinking,
everyone
"Oh,
listening to this podcast just like these fucking guys talking
probably
about
falling
this,
asleep.
talking about this bike race again. Bruv, get out there.
Do it.
But yeah, crazy.
Shall we have a little chat about?
Oh, we need to do sidecars.
Oh yeah. Well, shall we talk about the most successful races first, and then we'll move on to the sidecars
Yeah, right.
after that?
Okay.
So, big up Joey Dunlop, hero,
The man.
road
King of the
racing
mountain.
legend. Not just around the Isle of Man. There's other road races that happen in like Northern Ireland and things like that, and some around Europe. But he is the don around the Isle of Man TT. He has 26 wins around that course, and he won his last 3 in year 2000, and he was 51. And he went out and done it in the big race in the senior, which is the big one at the end of the week. And I think people had sort of half written him off at that point because he was so old. And I don't think he'd won a senior for a few years, and he'd had a few injuries, and he'd lost his finger and all this sort of stuff. So he'd still been winning on like the smaller classes, but he hadn't done it on the big bike for a while. And he went out that year. He won 3 in the week, and
Took his total wins to how many?
took his total wins to 26.
26, which is
Which still hasn't been beaten. Apart from this year, his nephew Michael Dunlop, he just won another 4 this week, and that took him to 25 wins. So he's only one behind.
He's
big
one
Uncle
off of
Joey.
matching his Uncle Joey, and then
And this is
obviously
why.
2 off of breaking the record, which is nuts.
And this is why. Well, while we're talking about Dunlops, then do we
Wait,
want
wait,
to talk about the?
Before we go anywhere with the Dunlops, I'm going to tell you motherfuckers to put on the film Road
Yes.
and watch that. That film is, I think it captures it, well, the family, the racing. It captures it. It was
What it
fucking,
means.
what a film. Unreal. So
Yeah.
it just follows this one Dunlop family, which some of you may or may not have heard of before, but watch that, and that explains everything to do with Dunlops way better than what we're
If
about
you
to
don't-
try and fucking
If
butcher
you don't,
together.
if you don't come out with like the hairs on the back of your neck standing up when you watch that,
Bro, that shit makes me cry. Like, films don't really make me cry other than that, Marley and Me,
Yeah.
because that shit was sad, and Fox and the Hound. Bro, I've not been able to watch Fox and the Hound since I was 9. I watched it once, and when she's driving away and that fox is sat in the woods, like, where the fuck are you going? Nah, that cuts me up.
pretty sad.
I can't do it, but I've watched it once, that is it. But yeah, Road, that's up there. That makes me cry.
Watch
that
that shit. It is unbelievable. We'll start at the beginning of the Dunlops then, shall we?
Yeah.
So, Joey and a couple of his pals, so you had his brother-in-law at the time, a couple of his buddies, 4 of them I believe it was. They went racing, they were doing the Irish road racing scene, and TT and things like that. And within they was quite good at it. Within the first couple of years, 2 out of 4 died racing the bikes. But it never put Joey off.
You put the other brother, what's his name? Is
his
it
other brother.
Ian?
So the 4 of them were called the Armoy Armada, because of where they come from in Ireland. And there was Joey Dunlop and Jim Dunlop.
Where were they from, Armada?
Armada. Armoy. You dickhead. You had Mervyn Robinson and Frank Kennedy. So Frank Kennedy and Mervyn Robinson both died pretty early on. Jim then gave it up. He said, it's not for me anymore. And
That's fair enough.
and so Joey carried on, and he just kept winning all sorts of places. He was also doing some short circuits as well, and wasn't too bad at that either. And eventually his younger brother, Robert Dunlop, started road racing.
Was he like 15 years younger, is he?
He was I think it was like 11 years or something
Yeah.
younger. Yeah.
So quite a bit younger.
So they're going out, and he weren't too bad either. He ended up with 5 TT wins and multiple wins around the Northwest 200. He held the record for the most Northwest 200 wins for a long, long time. It's only been broken recently in the last few years. So after Joey won the hat trick of wins in the 2000s, he went out to a little race in Estonia, a little road race out there, and he just won a couple of races on the smaller class bikes, and then in the main race he fell off and hit a tree, and he died, and that sent a big shockwaves through like the road racing.
I think just biking community in general.
Yeah,
I think
biking
anyone who rode
community.
motorbikes
Yeah,
knew who
like
Joey Dunlop
Joey
was.
Dunlop, no way.
And it was
But
like,
where he was like, he'd been around for so long. He was like 51 when he died.
I think everyone had like not thought that he had like escaped it, but I think it was like, he's a bit older now. Like,
Yeah.
if he was going to have died, it would have been when he was like in his prime, like
Yeah.
back in when he was like sort of like 30.
I don't think anyone was expecting that.
no one was expecting that shit.
And so that was like, yeah, that was a massive big shock. But like, undeterred, his younger brother Robert carried on racing, and even after he had a couple of like humongous accidents as well.
Yeah, he had like his leg was like a couple inches shorter than the other one. He had to move his like back brake up onto the handlebars and shit. He was mangled. 'Cause the video where his fucking wheel falls off
Yeah,
on the Isle of Man.
it's like the wheel just collapses.
He like goes around this corner and the wheel just exploded. It was like a bad manufactured wheel or something. And it just explodes. Like, you imagine you're doing like 100 mile an hour around a corner, and then your back wheel's just not there anymore. Just bang,
Yeah.
gone.
So
And he slid into a wall and fucking bounced himself across the track. And
So yeah, had some mad injuries as well, and but he carried on racing, carried on racing. So even after his brother died, he carried on racing, and you think your brother's just died doing something.
I think that just shows the mentality of these fuckers. Like,
Yeah.
not just the Dunlops, just anyone that's doing that. Like,
Yeah.
they're off their fucking heads. They've got something wrong. Like, if we were racing and like if we were doing anything and you died doing it, I'd be like, nah,
Yeah,
I'm good. I think I'm out.
done.
Like, I think I'm done doing whatever that thing is. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna carry on doing that.
Yeah, and so Robert just carried on racing, even after his brother's death,
Uh-huh.
and his two of his boys started racing as well.
Two
So you
sons, William and Michael.
William Dunlop and Michael Dunlop both start racing, despite their uncle. They probably had a couple of uncles die
Yeah, but
because the brother-in-law died.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, their auntie's husband, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so they would have been uncles. Yeah.
You had one brother quit because he was like, fuck that, I've seen too many of my friends die. You had your uncle die. Your dad's come off and smashed himself to bits like 4 or 5 times, like really mangled himself up.
But
and then
fear
just
not,
like,
we're going to go racing
well,
anyway.
that's what we do. We go racing. That's our thing.
So there was, I think, pretty good quite early on,
Yeah.
but not necessarily front runners or anything like that. But they was in the pack. They were doing it, and then at the Northwest 200, which is another Irish road race.
It's probably the second biggest road
probably
race,
the second
behind
biggest.
the Isle of Man, I'd say.
During the practice in 2008, Robert's going around doing his practice lap. He was riding alongside his oldest son William. And,
I feel like I want to tell this story, but I also want people to watch Road.
Yeah, but
How many people are going to watch Road after we've told them to watch it?
probably not that many.
Oh.
So William's following his dad round on the track, and he starts seeing something wrong with the bike.
He saw like smoke coming out of the exhaust.
Something like that.
Something didn't look right. The colour of the smoke was sort of off. So
Yeah, so he's trying to catch his old man, tell him to sort of slow down.
how old's William at this point?
Oh, he would have been young.
How old?
Early 20s, maybe. I think Michael was only about 18 at the time.
He was born in 1985.
So this was 2008, so 23.
Yeah, 23 years old. You're chasing after your dad, trying to tell him his bike's spitting out some funky coloured smoke. Like,
But he couldn't
something's not
catch his
right.
dad because his dad's too quick. And there was something like, because of his injury before, he's had to move his brake up
Yeah, it's
onto
like a
the
fun brake, I
handlebars,
think,
yeah.
instead.
And that seized on somehow, like whether he grabbed it or whatever it was, because he ended up going over the handlebars.
Yeah.
And ultimately he had a massive smash up. William had to like basically ride past him and carry
He
on
pretty
going.
much had to avoid his dad's bike. I
Yeah.
think it literally just happened.
Yeah.
And William's obviously coming round the corner. He's had to.
Right.
He's pretty much seen his dad's bike in the middle of the road.
And
He's
he's had
seen
to
his
go
dad
around
at the
him.
side of the road, and he's had to kind of
Go
avoid it
past
and just
him.
keep going. Because obviously you're on a racetrack still. You can't.
And then the very next bike that was round was Michael Dunlop, and he sees his old man's bike just laying in a ditch pretty much. And if you watch Road, it will tell you he pulls up at the side of the road, and he sits with his old man, right up until he
It pretty much held his hand. And
held his hand, was like, right.
And his dad sadly passed away at the side of the road. That
Yeah.
was,
So you'd think, you've lost a couple of uncles, you've lost your dad, that's it. You're probably not going to race anymore. But literally the following day, the Dunlop boys were told they weren't allowed to race
Which I think, considering everyone likes to shit on everyone, but like if you're a marshal and you're like, right, these two young lads, that 18 and 23 or whatever the fuck they were, have just literally seen their old man die in front of them. Like Michael was holding onto his hand when he passed away, and the next day they're like, we want to race, and they're going, no, I don't think you're in a good headspace. Which, to be fair, I think was a smart call from the organisers.
Yeah.
But
Dunlops.
The Dunlops being the Dunlops that they are, were like, no, we're fucking racing.
Yeah.
So they were told, not coming on the grid, not happening. Then they were like, okay, cool, walked off, got their bikes, and basically barged their way onto the grid and was like, we're fucking racing. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. So the race starts.
Which
I think they went
mentality-wise,
crazy. Like,
insane.
what sort of headstrong have you got to be to do that?
Like your old man literally died doing the fucking.
It was
race.
the practice for
it was
that
the
race.
practice for that race that he died in, and now they're in that race. Like, no, I'm still racing.
And I think they both started the race, but I think William ended up retiring like early on in the race. I believe.
I think he pulled in.
Nothing to do with him. It was the bike that was.
Yeah, I think he had to pull in after a lap or two or something.
Yeah,
he had to pull over, but so that left.
That left Michael still in the race, but at the time Michael was only 18. He'd only really properly just started racing, and he weren't one of the top guys. Like he was good, but at the time he wasn't one of the top runners. So he didn't really have any right to be challenging for a win or anything like that. But boy, that was Michael Dunlop, the beast born.
Yeah, he went out there the day after his dad's just died, and fucking won the race.
Won that fucking race for him.
What the fuck?
And there's scenes of it when you're watching Road. You see the scenes there, like.
And we're saying when you're watching Road, because you're definitely going to watch it.
You
I'm
need
going
to
to say
it
it again. It's fucking insane. It's like one of my favourite films ever.
Yeah.
And if you're even remotely interested by any of the bullshit we said in the last hour and 20 minutes, fucking watch it. It's amazing.
It's unreal. And so go and win that race is just, again, headstrong. And I think after all of that, that really spurred a pair of them on to going like, right, we're doing this for Dad now.
Yeah.
So keep racing for years and years and years. They're both pretty good at the Isle of Man TT. Dunlop's obviously now he's up to 25. Michael Dunlop. William never won one of the races, but he was always up there, top 10s, top 5s. I think he got on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
So both really, really, really good racers. And then we get to 2018. So that's a point. If you are watching Road, you will need to then continue to look into these guys afterwards, because Road only goes up to a certain year.
2016 was it? I think it was come out.
Yeah. So if we get to 2018, you've got William Dunlop, one of the sons.
Who's the oldest of the Roberts boys.
He's racing at Skerry's 100 road race in Dublin, and his bike spilled oil from the engine sump onto his back wheel, and he lost control of the bike and basically crashed into a ditch, and he hit the trees at like whatever ridiculous speed he was going.
Quick in that section.
And so he lost his life as well,
so
which is just.
Which obviously leaves just Michael.
Yeah. And you would think by now. You would think by now.
Yeah, after your uncle, you fucking
wait
before he's even born, but you've had like a couple of uncles that are dead. You got then your uncle has died, like Joey, and then a few years later your dad dies. You literally watched him die on the side of the road, and then fucking 10 years later
your brother dies.
Your older brother's died. Like, he's got no one. He's the only one that didn't have like a wife and kids and that as well. Like, I know William just had a kid. I think he literally just had a kid when he died. Like, it's crazy, and it's like people I think a lot of people probably think like that's so selfish, like having a kid and then still going to do road racing. Like it's not fair on the kid. And it's like, yeah, I get that point, but at the same time, the wives and partners and stuff of these racers know what they're getting themselves into, and it's like if you watch any of the documentaries on the TT, I think you get a better understanding, because you just hear them talk, or you hear like the partners talk about it, and it's like
it doesn't even register.
You can't even explain like that feeling, what it must be like to do that. Yeah. So like that's like, it must be like the best feeling in the world. And it's like the wives are always, oh, who am I to stop
them from doing
doing what they want to do. Like,
they're all supportive, really supportive.
It's insane. Like, I think there's probably been a few that have like got with a road racer and then been like,
Well,
I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
I actually can't be with someone who does this, and I can almost guarantee the answer from the road racers is like, okay, bye then.
Yeah.
Because that's their first true love.
Because
isn't it?
bikes
is their true love. So.
But yeah, it hasn't slowed them down, has it?
No, well, I thought, to be fair, when it happened, I was like, shit, that's going to send Michael over 1 or 2 races. I was like, he's either going to just be like, do you know what, I think I'm finally done, like, brother, dad, uncles, the lot. I was like, maybe he's going to do that. Or it's going to do what it has done, and he's just come out and gone, what the fuck have I got to lose now? Like, got no family, got no kids, no nothing. He's just like, let's fucking go.
He's got his little garage. He builds his own bikes. He goes racing.
He hates people. He's a proper man of my own heart. He hates people. He just wants to be left alone, working on his bikes. Just him and his little team of like 4 blokes that he has working with him.
He doesn't really speak to anyone else.
Doesn't do
around
medias and stuff. Doesn't do really like the rest of them are all like quite like pally. Like they're all like good mates off the circuit and stuff. And he's just like
he'll talk to him.
He's not a cunt, but he would rather just take his trophy, be like, all right, sweet, it's another win, and then fuck off back to the garage and start working on the bikes again. Like he's just he's a special and
guy.
when you watch him come around, like you'll watch all of these top boys come around when you're there, and it's just like you're watching like fuck, they're on the limit, like they are pushing, and then fucking you see that number 6 of Michael Dunlop come flying around the corner, and you're like, holy shit! Like he always pushing. Looks like he is on fucking the edge of what is possible. He's like on the walls pretty much. There was a photo from this year. Did you see it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's like the dust is kicking up from where he's like, it's so close to the wall. Like all of the dust at the side of the road's getting kicked up, and there's like people literally the other side of the wall like standing
moving out of the way because he's come past so close.
We'll post it on our Instagram later once this episode's done. But
yeah,
bruh, crazy. What a guy, crazy cunt.
So another 4 this year takes him 1 behind Joey, the legend.
We're going next year. I really hope. Well, I hope he breaks.
His bike broke down in the lightweight race this year. He was so far ahead. That was his 26th win in the bag.
He was going to equal it, yeah.
And his bike broke down. So I don't think it's going to be long before he equals it. And do you know what? It's like, because Joey's such a legend and is like one of the biggest names in TT, but the 2 guys who are closest to him, John McGuinness has got 23 race wins, and now Michael Dunlop's got 25. I think if either one of them 2 equals or beats Joey, I don't think people will be that upset.
No, because they're both just fan favourites.
So, yeah, and then so after the Dunlops sitting in like 1st and 2nd place of all-time wins and being absolute legends around there, you got legend in himself, John McGuinness. He's currently sitting on 23 wins. He's about, what is he, 52 now?
51.
Yeah.
1972.
Yeah, so he was the king of the mountain for a long time. He was the first guy to do the 130 mile an hour lap. We've spoken about in 2007, and he actually holds the most podiums, like the record for most podiums around there with 47.
That's insane. 47 races he's been stood on one of them 3 spots.
Yeah. And then Dunlop got what, 7 this year? 7 podiums?
7 podiums, I think. Yeah.
So he's up to 37 now, which is equal with Bruce Anstey, who's got 37.
I was just looking. It says John McGuinness has contested in 19 Ironman TTs.
The 19 years, yeah.
19, yeah. So 96 was his first one to 2000, and then 2002 to 2016, and then 2019, and then 2022, and obviously 2023.
Yeah. So I can't remember how many. At one point this week, just gone, he was starting like his 106th TT.
That's fucking nuts.
But even if you say that 106 TTs, 47
that's
on the podium, it's nearly 50%.
Yeah, nearly every other race.
And like, everyone always go, well, he says it and says, I'm getting on a bit now, I can't keep up with the top boys. So like, imagine if he'd jacked it in like maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So his record would have been like literally more than 50%. Like, but he's just carried on going because he's obviously,
he just loves it.
I don't know, yeah, he just loves it so much, and he always says that I'm hoping something will like crop up and tell me to stop. But at the minute, nothing.
Well, he broke his leg.
He had a mad
20
crash.
What? 2? No,
I think it was about. It was the year that Guy Martin was his teammate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That the Fireblade was crap.
Is that the 2018 one?
Might have been. Is it? If it was the last time Guy Martin raced there.
Yeah. He broke his leg in May 2017. So
was that the Northwest?
Yeah, so he suffered serious injuries during practice for the Superbike race at the Northwest 200 in Northern Ireland, causing broken vertebrae, ribs, and a compound fracture. Oh, that's where it comes out the skin, isn't it?
Yeah.
compound fracture to his right lower leg bones, nice, requiring surgeons to remove 2 inches and needing an external fixator cage to grow new bone.
Nice.
So that was 2017. So that how many years
6
ago?
years
5
ago?
years ago? 6
5,
years?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. So he was 45.
45, yeah.
45, and he had that gone to him, and then he
come back.
and he's waiting for something to crop up to tell him to stop. Was that not the fucking
That was
sign,
the
John?
thing,
Come on,
John.
John.
Stop now.
Yeah, mate, crazy cunt. Love that.
And he started off just as a bricklayer. He always says, just a bricklayer
Just
from Morecambe.
It's crazy. It's so mad. I love as well that talking about these people is like you can walk around the pits on the week and they're not celebrities, are they? Like,
No.
You'll just see them working on their bikes and you can be like, "You're right, John." He's like, "You're right." Hey, you just have a chat. It's like meeting a bloke down the pub. Like
Yeah,
they're
literally.
so relaxed and it's
Sometimes you even meet him in the pub.
yeah.
as well.
You'll just be drinking in the pub and like
We saw Cole Fogarty the other
yeah,
year, didn't we?
Cole Fogarty a couple of years ago. We just sat there
Eating
in the
our steak,
Hawthorn.
having a few
Shout out
beers.
Hawthorn again.
Shout out the Hawthorn.
And then just having a couple of beers and see this guy come in. I'm like, "Is that Cole Fogarty?" And we sat there like, "No." And he's just a couple of tables away, just sitting there eating his fucking steak dinner.
We see the Birchill brothers, didn't we?
Yeah,
we pulled
we
up
just
down
see
in
him walking
Douglas,
around,
and he
just-
come and commented on my bike. It's a shame I was angry at my bike at the time. 'Cause
Was that? Did he tell you that your bike was leaking? Or was that the other guy?
No, he said something about it being really nice and that he wouldn't mind one of them. I said, "You fucking don't, fucking piece of shit." While all the radiator fluid's just pissing out everywhere. Fucking thing.
Don't buy Italian.
Don't buy Italian. They look nice. Buy one if you want to just look at it. Don't buy one if you want to just if you actually want to ride it or do anything with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna park it in my living room.
Put some
I
spotlights on
think.
it.
Yeah.
Bit
Put
of
it on-
LED tape around the wheels and that.
Yeah, put it on a little stage. Maybe rotate it.
That'd be sick.
That'd be really good. She might have to lose her fireplace though.
Fuck that fireplace. That MV would look lovely. That's the other good thing about this sport. As a little bit of a tangent, I don't think there's any rider that you
Don't
dislike.
like. Yeah.
Like, you know, a short circuit race, and you'll be like, "Oh, Marquez
He's
is a bit of a dick," or
Yeah.
like so and so's a bit of a dick. The Isle of Man, you're like, you have so much respect for what they're doing. Like, you can't not.
Well, someone asked me the other day, "Oh, who do you want to win this one?" I'm like, I don't care.
I don't care.
I genuinely don't
honestly
care.
don't
who
care.
wins.
If any of them win, I'm fucking gassed for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is wicked.
Like sometimes if it's like so in the lightweight race this year, Mike Brown, who my dad met at the Manx GP a few years ago and like helped him sort his bike out at the side of the road. So like he's one of them like we sort of look out for now. We're like,
Yeah, we keep an eye on him, and
we're
there's
like,
like,
oh, how's he doing? How's he getting on? Sort of thing. And
There's
he's
like a couple of, what is that local lad, Tom Whedon
Yeah.
from Maidstone. Like, there's a couple of lads like that who are obviously lower down. They're not like top 10, but they're lower down the pecking order. That you're like, you kind of look out for him. You're like, oh, go on, like,
yeah,
is it
go
when
on, lad. And like in this lightweight race, after Dunlop broke down, Mike Brown was in second place. He obviously inherited the lead. So he's like leading this race, and I'm like, he's never led a TT before.
Yeah,
He's only been doing it a couple of years, and we're like, go on, lad. Like
I think everyone
That's
had that
decent.
feeling. Don't
Yeah,
it? When it's a new person,
when
about to
somebody
take
who's
a win,
not won
everyone's
one
like, "Go on,
before, you're like,
motherfucker."
yeah, go on then. And then unfortunately his bike broke down as well. But like that would have been a mad thing. It would have been an absolute killer. I was gutted for him.
Yeah,
but
I know.
like it's just one of them. Not only is it like a physical race and a time trial and all this, it's an endurance race as well, both for you and for the bike.
Yeah,
because them bikes get pounded,
They get battered.
absolutely
You
pounded.
hit a speed bump, or not even a speed, but you hit a pothole too hard on like the normal roads, and like you feel that like bang, and you're like shit, and you're like making sure your bike's alright. Like they're doing that, just fucking 37 miles flat out. Also, talking about the endurance of the motorbike, I found that cool stat the other day, didn't I?
Oh Jesus, yeah.
So it's how hard do the bikes work? So this is what Honda UK posted, Honda Racing UK. They posted this thing up and they said, it's not just the riders working hard. 30.03% of each lap our Fireblade, which is their superbike, is on full throttle. That's 11.37 miles of 37.73 miles a lap across two bikes. John McGuinness, so one of the guys we were just talking about, 23 wins, has done 17 laps so far, so that's 193.29 miles on public roads, absolutely flat out. Like that bike is flat out, and it had been by this point when they posted it. I don't think it was at the end of the week, it was
No,
sort of
like
midway.
midweek. That was. He'd only done practice.
That bike had done 193.29 miles on A roads, absolutely flat out.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. That is insane.
So you can see the strain that's on the
Yeah,
engines
so when the
and
bikes
things like
break down, no one's like, oh, that bike's shit. They're just like, pfft.
Yeah, fair
Fair.
enough. It's just
I'm
blowing
not
its
surprised.
guts everywhere.
But
Yeah, it's a
But
crazy.
yeah. Anyway, watch Road
Watch
again.
Road,
I'm
definitely
saying that
watch
for a
Road.
third time because
Probably
fucking
watch-
watch Road.
Probably watch Closer to the Edge That's a nice little one. It's
I like that one.
It's from 2010.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit like outdated now.
It's probably it's really outdated, but it's a good one to get you started. If you listen to
it
this,
follows like a few of the riders, so you can kind of like you can sort of
get a
see what they're
gauge
all
on
about. Like, and it's a bit, I think Road's a bit more of like a historical, and it builds up to sort of present day.
Yeah, and then you've got probably I think it's on like ITV at the minute, but you'll get the one from last year. What was it called? No Room for Error.
There's a thing on ITV, so that was following the 2022 Isle of Man. That's pretty good. Like, gives you like whenever the ITV do programs like that, they kind of aim it at newcomers and people who have sort of watched it before, so you get a real good like grasp of shit. And you get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and like
it shows you how relaxed the riders are despite them going down.
It's weird.
Are any of us coming back?
Well, I can't remember who was saying it yesterday after the last race. It was I can't remember. It was one of the Irish lads who was fell down. He was like, "It's funny. You spend all year, can't wait to get here." He said, "You get here in these 2 weeks, like you can't wait for it to be over because the stress and like the adrenaline and like it must be exhausting and like not knowing whether you're even gonna fucking come back. Like you sat on your bike, you say goodbye to your missus, and you jump on that bike. You don't know whether you're coming back. An hour and a half later, like." That's why anyone who finishes a race is genuinely over the fucking moon.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get the lads that are competitive and they're like, "Oh, I knew I could have gone a bit quicker," but like, I'd say outside of the top 10, anyone that finishes a race, to finish a race is the biggest achievement. Like anyone who's got even if one person's just got one finish, I'm like, I'm in awe. I'm like, fucking fair play.
100%.
Can't deal with that. Another cool thing is a lot of the guys that race there. How many starters are there every race? 50?
I think it was about 40 this year. Yeah, I think there has been 50
so you've got 40 there, and I'd say 25 of them aren't even professional racers. They're not bike riders. They're just electricians, accountants, fucking lumberjacks. Dom Herbertson? Yeah. He's a lumberjack, so he spends all year, most of the year, lumberjacking, cutting trees down, doing his thing, saves all of his money up just so that he can go out to the Isle of Man and race. And then he does a couple other little road races and that as well, but...
And that sort of come about, like, obviously, after it lost its World Championship status, after all of the professional races bitched out, basically. I mean, most of you have probably heard of, like, Barry Sheen and stuff like that. Like, he was one of the ones bitching. Yeah. And Agostini, he was, like, the greatest Grand Prix racer of all time. He was bitching. I mean, he won a fair few races around there, but he was bitching afterwards. These boys choose to go and race there as a hobby. So, but then, like, I think a lot of the guys there, even the top guys now, would have started as a normal job, and it's only now that they are like so good at it. They maybe get sponsorship and stuff like that, but you don't get an awful lot of money for like winning races. I don't think so. I think one year Dunlop got like 18 grand, I think it was, but he'd won a couple of races
over the whole week.
Yeah, but he'd won a couple of races. So you think about like the MotoGP boys are on like millions of pounds a year.
Yeah, their contracts are worth loads,
and yet these boys are like literally risking their lives for the crack, basically. Yeah. As you'll hear quite a lot of them saying, they'll be going around the last lap and they're like, just went a few seconds quicker just for the crack, opened it up a little bit more just for the crack. It was a good crack. Yeah, you're like, this is not my idea of a crack. No. But they were saying like, they spend all year waiting for this one event, and then when they get there, they can't wait for it to be over just to like make sure they're all safe and going back to their families and things like that. It's just an unreal mindset. Yeah, I mean, I've just had a quick Google on what the prize is, and it says winning the Isle of Man TT earns you a pittance of a purse around £18,000. But the reward can't be measured in money. It's not a task for the career orientated. It's an obsession for dreamers and the slightly insane. Yep, which I think I'd agree with. That's a pretty good explanation. That is a good point. Yeah, that is not a lot for risking your. No, I mean, your neck. And then there's a few other lads who have gone on to be professional bike racers afterwards. Yeah. There's one guy you might have heard of, Carl Fogarty. You might have seen him on I'm a Celebrity a few years ago. He ended up winning it, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah. King Carl. King of Jungle. So obviously he was racing TT like mid 80s, early 90s. And after that, he went on to become like a 4-time World Superbike champion, like one of the best British racers that we've had. One of the most successful, anyway. But yeah, he was racing around it. I think he'd done the Manx to start with, which is obviously the event later on in the year. And he won the 1989 production 750cc race. So he was quite good at it. Quite good, yeah. And then in 1990, he won the Formula One and the senior TT races, so 2 in a year, so that was good. And who knows, the last ones he won, but he was in one of the most iconic TT races of all time. He was on a Yamaha and he was racing against Steve Hislop, who was another quite a good short circuit racer as well. Steve Hislop was on a Norton, Fogarty's on the Yamaha, and they were just going at it, hammer and tongs, like the whole race.
The whole race, crazy.
And Hislop ended up winning it by 4 seconds. But,
which over the course of
200,
that's what's mad. People say 4 seconds. You're like, oh, if you win a short circuit race, like if you win MotoGP by 4 seconds, you're like, fucking hell, he just got to the front and fucked off. 4 seconds over
226.3
4 seconds over 1 lap is insane.
Yeah.
Like you're 4 seconds over 37 miles. Like over how many laps did you say it was? 4.
6 laps
6
for
laps.
the seniors. Yeah.
So 220 miles,
miles,
whatever. Yeah, 4 seconds. You've
Yeah,
both done
all.
220 miles, and they were 4 seconds behind you.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, how close?
Really close. And then, in that race, on the last lap of the race, Foggy set a new outright lap record at 123.61 miles an hour. And that stood for 7 years until 1999. So that was in 1992, that little battle that they had, that little duel that they had. And that lasted for 7 years until 99.
That's crazy. And
there's like, just to sort of put that half into perspective of how quick they were going then. So that was the year I was born, so 31 years ago.
They're old.
This year, like, they're going 135 now, the top boys. 136 was the new record now. But like newcomers and people like that are turning up, and they're happy with like 120 mile an hour lap.
Yeah, if there was an interview after the senior race this year, I think I can't remember who it was. Name's escaping me, but the Irish lad, and they get interviewed straight away, and the lady doing the presenting was like, "Oh, your lap time on lap 6 was 121." And he was over the moon. He was just, that was all I was aiming for. I just wanted to get 121 mile an hour lap. That was my goal. So I'm happy with that. And that's, what did he do? 123.
He had 123.
1992.
Yeah.
So that shows you how much they were pinning it back then.
Yeah.
Like,
so they were the top boys back then. But like even at that, it shows how much everybody else has had to improve as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what would a newcomer have been doing in 92?
90 mile an hour, probably
No,
not.
would they have still been knocking on the door of the 100 mile an hour laps? I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. So before we run out of time, but before we wrap it up, we need to talk sidecars.
Yeah.
Because, right, so sidecars, for people who don't know, are...
I mean, you see your sidecars on the road. It's not them kind of sidecars.
It's not them kind of sidecars. It's... I don't even... It's like a... It's a 600cc motorbike engine. But they're basically plonked into like a frame that's built...
About 2 inches off the floor.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And it's got a tiny little platform sticking out the side where some absolute fucking nut job hangs off the back of it
to
and
help
distributes
steer.
the weight. So he flings his body over that fucking sidecar while the other chavvy's in the front with his throttle and that, like, tearing it. This guy on the back is literally hanging... It's open at the back, so he's not like in like a cosy little fucking cell. He's just on a bit of wood, basically.
Just clinging on for dear life.
Clinging on for dear life with
like
all these handles.
A couple of little grab bars to hold on to.
Yeah, a couple of little grab bars, and then that's about it. Their arse is like fucking skimming the floor.
You know, if you see motorbike races and they've got like knee sliders on their levers, that's because obviously when you're going around your cornering, you can get your knee down on the floor and it sort of helps you. You're scraping against the floor. Well, they have them knee sliders stitched to their butt.
To their arse, because their arse is literally scraping the floor. Like these crazy fucks. And I can't... Oh.
And you see
Makes
the bike,
my palms
you
again
see, when you
sweaty.
see the bikes going around, they're like the width of a motorbike. You can imagine that. Then you sort of, what would you reckon? Is it double the size, double the width?
Yeah, I'd say probably double. Like
Probably at least double, maybe slightly wider. Going around the same circuit, slightly slower because there's obviously a lot more weight. There's two guys on it.
There's a lot more bike.
There's 3 wheels,
There's 3
so
wheels, yeah.
they're not obviously never going to get around it as quick as a motorbike. But fuck me.
There's it. Type in again. It's like YouTube sidecar Isle of Man TT and just watch that shit and tell me it's not the most fucked thing you've ever seen in your life.
Still smashing it through A roads, through these. Like, I mean, you know how sort of like thin narrow some of the roads are, and you're sending these sidecars through there, and they're just scraping walls. They're up on banks sometimes. You can't fathom
it's insane.
it.
But we were talking of sort of legends of the sidecar. Well, we're talking legends of the motorbike world, but sidecar world. There's been these pair of brothers the last few years that have just absolutely fucking destroyed it.
Ben and Tom Birchall. They had a little mishap a few years back, a little crash.
Is that their second year or something? Was it first
Something
year?
like that.
No, it's their first year, wasn't it?
But ever since then, they've won pretty much every race.
I think every race they've started, apart from one where they broke down and that one where they crashed, is they've won.
They've won it. Yeah.
They've found. I don't even. But like, not even just winning it, they've absolutely fucking tonked it. There is the gap back to second place has been ridiculous.
They've now got 15 wins.
15 wins. And bearing in mind they only do two sidecar races.
Yeah, two races a year.
A week, sorry, a year. So yeah, that's you can do the maths on that one. That's a lot of wins, a lot of races.
That's a lot of winning.
And that's a lot of 37 miles laps to be going around while you're hanging off the back.
Yeah. Throwing
your body over the wheel.
There was a couple of sidecar guys this year. I never really thought about this before, but there was a retirement one of the races, and they started interviewing the sidecar driver, and he goes, we had to pull over, we had to retire. It's like, if the passenger thinks he's broken a couple of ribs, and they're like bruised to just absolutely bruised to fuck, because they're like flinging themselves over, they'll hit a bump, but they're like flinging themselves into the side. They're hitting
a bump while they're trying to throw themselves onto the sidecar, so the sidecar's then flinging up at them. Like, they've hit a bump doing 100 odd mile an hour. They've just got this fucking chassis flying towards them, and they're trying to jump on top of that bit of chassis to keep it down so that they can. And so they're just getting smashed into the ribs.
Black
by like,
and blue.
I had never thought about that. I thought about like maybe like your arms getting tired because you're hanging on all the time, and like your fucking arse getting hot where you're scraping it on the floor.
Maybe
but
your
like
neck and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
but I'd never even thought about the fact that their ribs are like getting battered by the actual bike itself. Like,
it's not.
That, well, they call it an outfit, didn't they? Like
sidecar.
The sidecar outfit, like smashing you in the thing. But the Birchall brothers did 120 mile an hour average speed this year, which
is unreal. They've been knocking on the door of it for a couple of years. They've been 119s, getting closer and closer and closer.
But again, that's 16 mile an hour less than what the 1000cc motorbikes are doing, and they're in 600cc sidecars, so extra wheel, extra weight, extra person, 120 mile an hour, like.
Yeah.
And there was that. Was it the Crow brothers that were talking about finding the extra 9 seconds?
No, it was Jevons, Folds, and Jevons. Hold on.
While Ross is finding that, there's basically this other sidecar team that was it after the first race? They were talking, and they were like, how the fuck, like, going off of our best time that we've ever done around this, we need to find 9 seconds to get to 120 mile an hour, which is what the Birchall brothers had just done. So they were sat there like in the pits, like, where the fuck are we going to find 9 seconds in a lap? And they started talking now, like, well, maybe like this corner we could like roll off a bit later, or that this corner we could maybe like accelerate a bit sooner. Like, they were going through this whole 264 corners trying to work out where they could buy a little bit of time here, a couple of half tenths of a second here and the tenth of a second there, just to try and get the 9 seconds up. And they ended up doing it, didn't they? They ended up doing 120 as well.
They got the 120
so it was like, they were. Imagine sitting there the first time you've been talking about that section the night before, going, where are we going to find 9 seconds? And then they're going, oh, maybe through this section I can just keep it flat out rather than rolling off the throttle like a tad. I'll just keep it flat. Imagine the first time you get to that section again, you're hanging onto the back. You must literally just be like, here we go. Let's just see how this fucking goes. Shut your eyes and hope that then 9 seconds comes here, because fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, first time you go through like Quarry Bends or whatever, and he's saying, I'll keep it flat out through Quarry Bends this time instead of rolling off like I usually do a little bit. You'd be like, but we're already going through there at the absolute maximum we can go through there. And they're like, no, let's try it. Like, we're going to have to. And you imagine getting Quarry Bends in that first lap, you'd be literally like, fuck, here we go. Shut your eyes and just fucking.
Yeah, it's Peter Fownes and Jevon Walmsley.
There we go. Them's the guys. Fucking heroes. But yeah, they did 120 mile an hour this year as well.
Which was good. Really good for them. So they're all pushing. But the Birchalls just don't seem to be beatable at the minute.
They're just fucking nuts.
Oh, speaking about these lap records and things like that as well, the top speeds. Flick back to when we said in 2007 they'd done the first 130 miles an hour lap, and that was like an unreal thing to achieve on the 1000cc. So imagine jumping on the 600cc Supersport bike and saying, yeah, we'll do a 130 mile an hour lap on that as well, which Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop done this year
That's fucking nutty.
on a 600. That's crazy.
And they call them like the small bikes.
Yeah, they're the small bikes. Yeah,
they're just a bit of
small
fun. They're a little bit of fun. There's a small bike. You're like, fucking, the bike I've got's a 600cc sports bike, and it's eligible to run in that class,
Yeah.
and that is not.
Well, you've literally got the same bike as
it
Hickman
is,
run.
yeah,
but
it is not the that is not a small bike. That is
No.
a fucking quick bike.
Yeah,
It goes really quick. I can't say how quick because the police might be listening, but
yeah.
it goes
It does at
quick.
least 70 miles an hour.
It goes at least 70, sometimes more. But
Only if the wind's behind you.
yeah, but fucking, it's not a slow bike. Like,
But if you think about, there's, I don't know, I think it was something like 25 people have done 130 mile an hour plus lap on the 1000cc, and these two motherfuckers are doing it on a 600 now.
it's fucking
So
crazy.
if they could probably put their 600 up against 1000 and still finish in the top 20.
Well, a lot of the outside your top 10s or whatever on the super sports, they sort of do, all like the newcomers are doing sort of like 116, 117 mile an hour laps, isn't they? That just takes you back to the sidecar. They're doing 120
Yeah.
with a sidecar. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, and these, like, some of these guys that are fucking quick, like newcomers, are doing 117 miles an hour on a bike.
Yeah.
You're just like,
No,
that just
it's
puts into
crazy.
perspective how quick them sidecars are going as well, I think.
And like, I think also put in perspective as well, like a lot of the newcomers, when Peter Hickman was first went and done it, he got like 129 mile an hour lap in his first year as a newcomer, like fastest ever newcomer, and that
Yeah.
was like obscene. And then I think it was last year, Glenn Irwin, his first year. Glenn Irwin's like a British superbike racer, decided to go and do the TT, and he done 129 mile an hour lap, but quicker than Hickman's 129 mile an hour lap in your first go. Like, them guys are like the special guys. If they carry on doing
they're
it,
special.
like, well, you can see quite clearly now from Peter Hickman, he done that as a newcomer. I reckon it takes 3 years to learn a course because of the amount of corners and find out what the bumps are and get the certain lines and all of this. So he sort of took his 3 years, and then sort of since then, he's now up to
what's he on,
13 wins.
I think?
Yeah,
One, was it one behind Mike Howard?
one behind Mike Howard, who's like
He's like another legend.
legend. Yeah, so he done another 4 this year. So yeah, he's you can tell who the quick ones are going to be, but then there's other lads there who sort of like raced for there for years and years and years, and then like all of a sudden they'll find something.
Yeah,
They'll
they
pop
just
up. They
find-
might find a click with a certain bike that they use.
Yeah.
They might have been riding like maybe a Kawasaki for years, and all of a sudden they switch to possibly, I don't know, a BMW or something, and they might just find a setting and a feeling
Yeah.
with that just goes right, yeah, and then all of a sudden they're a top runner. There's loads of them though, but like say that them top 3 have been pushing it so far ahead of the others at the minute. It's just
I
unbelievable.
say it must be like, I say this hard in like a half jokey way, but like, imagine you're someone like James Hillier,
Yeah.
who's
knocking out 130
he's
mile an
he
hour
is
laps
fucking
constantly.
quick. He
yeah.
is a top rider, like unreal, constantly knocking out like on the door, like always there. How many podiums has he got?
He got a win.
He's-
Did he not get a win in the lightweight?
I think
race?
he got a win in the lightweight race, but we looked
I
at
can
his
find you
podiums the other
podiums.
day.
I can find you.
But anyway,
podiums.
he's like running. Look, so most races, obviously, you've got the top 3 for the last few years at least, anyway, and then he's usually there like 4th, 5th, 6th, like he's there, and it's like it must be so disheartening. You sit in 10 seconds off, like obviously on the road, like I say, they start 10 seconds apart. Imagine you're going as fucking quick as you can on a bike, like you're fucking flying around this course, like absolutely having it, and then some twat that's fucking started 30 seconds behind you. He comes past you on the road, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, how has he made 30 seconds on me? I'm absolutely ragging this bike to its limit. Like, I'm pushing myself to the limit around this course. And this guy who started 30 seconds behind me has now passed me in on the road. It must be, like, disheartening, but at the same time, you're still just going so quick around that course. There's nothing to, like, take away from him at all.
Yeah, like it's as I said before. Anybody who finishes a TT is a legend in my eyes.
Yeah,
Like,
straight up.
There's no denying that. And anyone who's won one, well, fuck me, like fair play. Anyone who's even got a podium, fucking fair play.
I think anyone who even sets off down Bray Hill, I'm like, do you know what?
Yeah. You'd have
I
me
tip my
parking
hat,
up.
because fuck.
Yeah.
I'd get to the bottom of Bray Hill, pull over, and be like, I'm good.
14 podiums. Hilliard's had.
James
So
Hillier,
he's
14.
he's a top lad.
He's a top rider, and was it one win?
I think it's 1 win on the lightweights. Yeah.
But like, he's one of them. It's like, if he'd have come around any other time in history, he probably would have been smashing the wins out. But he just so happened to be
There's 3 other
at
guys.
the same time
just-
as these 3 other fuckers that are unfortunately another level on top of that, which is already a ridiculously high level.
But it's pushing so many more people to be even quicker. Like if them three guys weren't there, people would they not be settling for them 130 mile an hour?
That's
laps?
even like Hickey was saying the other day. Like he was like, if I was coming out and winning every race by 30 seconds, he wouldn't be going as quick as what he is because he wouldn't need to. But he's got Michael Dunlop and he's got Dean Harrison like pushing him at every race. So he has to keep pushing, and that's where the faster lap times are coming. That's where it's nuts. It's been really exciting. I think the last few years have been mega exciting.
And it's just breaking all them barriers constantly. It's unreal.
It's like going into next year now that we're going. Obviously, it's going to rain all week, so we're going to see no racing. But
yeah, and the records probably won't go because it's going to rain.
It's going to be shit. It'll be the worst year to go in the last 10 years.
If anybody else is going next year, don't.
Yeah, I'd cancel your ferries and wait until we're not going. Probably the next year after that, and then probably be good weather. But yeah, even next year when we go, like I'm so excited because you just don't know. You don't know if anyone's going to come out and win or.
Well, I feel like we should mention like the one year Ian Hutchinson turned up and won all 5 races in the week.
Yeah,
that year they run 5 races and he won 5 of them,
which is nuts.
Like, and that
is he the first person to do that?
He was the first person to win 5.
I don't think anyone's done it since.
No one's done it since before or since. Quite a few have done 4. Quite a few have done 3 in a week.
They've changed now. There's 8 races.
There's now 8 races.
So this is the first year they've added.
To be fair, so no one now is going to break that record of 5 out of 5.
Not 5 out of 5, no, because they were talking about. Might have been Hickey the other day, and they were like, "Oh, if you can get this, that make the 5." No one's done that since. So it's still a thing, like 5 in a week.
It's still a thing, but if you.
But just think that someone at some point is going to do 8 out of 8.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you not reckon,
No.
bro? You're telling me they're going to do 140 mile an hour in like 7 years? Someone's doing.
I think the competition between them 3 are too close, and I think there's new people.
You
coming
say, but
through.
then you look at Hickey from that last race.
Yeah.
Fucking smashed it.
But then he couldn't touch Michael Dunlop on the Super Sport this year, or the lightweight.
True.
Unless he finds something significant in them 2.
Well, we still won the lightweight. I know it took.
Yeah,
it took other 2 to pull
took
out,
Dunlop
but that's
to break down. Yeah.
Still a win.
It's
Still got to
part
get
of
across
it,
the line, I suppose. Isn't it?
Of course it is. I can't see it. I mean, if no one's done 5, other than Hutchinson, in all that time ever, like
Someone will do 8.
doing 8, if that ever gets done, I'd die a happy man.
I'll eat my hat.
Eat your own head.
I'd eat my own head. That's what I'd find unbelievable. Yeah, I feel like we could just talk for about 3 hours.
We probably could. You could probably like tell that we're just super passionate about it. We probably haven't explained half the stuff we need to know.
We come in here with we were like, right, let's actually structure it this year. Like, we got a couple of tips from, quick shout out to the Browsing History boys as well.
Top boys,
Browsing History podcast. It's fucking hilarious.
If you haven't listened to that, if you're busy waiting for our next episode to come out and you've got a bit of time, go listen to them boys over there. They're fucking hilarious.
They just take history and they fucking talk you through it, but it is the funniest shit. But they've given us a couple of tips with like how to like edit stuff and all that. And like this week we come in, was like, right, let's sit down. It was like, we've got a bit of a structure. We'll explain like where the Isle of Man is, like what the Isle of Man is, the races, and then I feel like we've got to an hour and 49 minutes in, and I'm like, I've still got 6 hours worth of talking in me, and I'm also now panicking that we've completely butchered that, butchered the structure that we went with. But
yeah,
I think if anything, take away how excited we get talking about it, and if you actually personally know us, like we're both pretty miserable fucks, so to get excited about something, I'm like, yeah, it's good, but definitely like.
Imagine this: if you could take anything away from this. Imagine me and Kieran standing on a wall at a pub, waiting for a bike to come through Kurt Michael, and as the bike passes, we look at each other, and we jump up and down, clapping our hands, screaming like little girls, smiling, going, "Ooh!" That happened, by the way, guys.
Legit,
that happened.
That's a real story. That first time that bike come past me, I nearly shat my pants, and then got excited about the fact that I nearly shat my pants. And then because I'd nearly shat my pants, I actually shat my pants. It was fucking crazy. It was fuck, I can't even. You just can't explain it till you get there. But
I feel like we've got to give a shout out to old Daddy Brown as well.
Yes.
Because without Daddy Brown, we would never have known about this.
We're sitting in his man cave right now, which we coincidentally is covered in Joey Dunlop stickers and posters, because that's my dad's absolute hero. So
and TT signs up everywhere, bike signs everywhere.
But yeah, we got brought up by that
He's
shit.
been going TT since what, 76 or something like that.
No, he was only 10 then.
Yeah, he was.
Oh yeah, he
going
went
over
with
the
it. He went with the
Scouts.
thing, didn't he? Yeah, yeah.
He used to go with the
76.
Scouts and things like that.
I think the first year he went on his own was at 80 something.
Yeah,
Whatever.
So he's been going. He was going years and years and years. He had a few years out when we were younger. Then our first year back. Well, I went back with him in 2014, and then he's been back with us since.
Every time
Since. But he goes out every year for the Manx GP later on in the year. He loves it out there.
It's because it showed they have, like you say now, and it has the classic bikes. So like that's like my dad's element. He can sit there and watch all these old bikes that he used to watch when he was like 20. They then get raced around for a bit of a laugh, if you like. They're like, oh yeah, let's take this 1980s sports bike out. And my dad's like, I remember when they used to come around. He doesn't sound like that at all. He's Scottish.
What does he
so it's
actually
more
sound
like, it's about that. But he.
Yeah, so we decided this was the best place to record this one in Daddy Brown's shed. So we've had 3 episodes and 3 different recording spots so far.
I know. What's been your favourite?
I quite like my kitchen. That was quite chill.
I quite like the living room at mine.
Did you? Yeah, that's quite chill. I quite like this one, other than the smelly rat.
Yeah,
and the heat.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sauna in here. Shed.
Oh, we're both sitting with our titties out.
Yeah, boy.
Sweating.
Page 3.
I'm on this leather sofa, sweating.
I'm training to be a pit girl.
You get a nice moose knuckle going down there.
Hell yeah. Oh well, on that moose knuckle joke, I think...
we can probably reveal what we're doing for next week's. By the way.
We could.
Because we could probably...
Wait, which one did we decide we was going with? Ah, okay. Go on there, you drop it.
Yeah, so world records.
Yes.
And we could possibly drop a couple of these bastards in here for world records.
We could. We'll do that next week.
Yeah. So we've not decided which world records we're looking at yet. We're just going.
I'm just gonna say world records in general,
yeah.
And we're gonna go out and just try and find some fucking
mad shit,
weird shit, and then come back and report and just spin off on tangents about said records.
But if there's anybody that you know who's got some mad world records that you think that we should be covering, chuck it out there on the social medias,
or even just subjects.
Yeah,
because I think we're at about 8 subjects now. Now I'm panicking that we're going to run out. But no. If you can think of any topic that you think we should research, and then come back and do a little podcast on. You've seen how much of a car crash this shit is, so
I'm sure we can ruin that.
I wouldn't expect anything else. So if you give us something, I'm sure we can fuck that up. But yeah, we'll call it there.
For now, I think we're good.
Cool. Go and watch Road.
Go watch
Fourth
Road.
time.
Definitely
watch Road. It's on Amazon Prime right now, so you've got no excuses.
Is it free on Amazon Prime?
It's free on Amazon Prime. And if it's not free on Amazon Prime, by the time you get there, let me know. I'll pay for it.
Oh, that's going to cost you.
Then no one's listening. It's fine. All right.
Peace out.